people come up. Let's do it. Well, shit, I didn't get the thing. Might help me put that in there.
Hey there.
Hey,
How are
can
you?
you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
sure
get my
can.
headphones. I don't have my headset in yet, but I'm gonna plug them in.
Okay.
Seems to work better.
Yeah, I'm watching for Nathan to come in, and then I'm gonna do some
Hi
shares, and
guys.
then hey, how's it going?
Good. You?
Yeah, pretty good.
Good. Hi Sally.
Hi, Eileen.
How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. Ready for this.
This was a good topic.
I
It
think so.
is. It is. Hello, Shannon.
Hi,
We're getting
Shannon.
this sorted out. We're having a hard time getting him the PDFs. For some reason, he
Oh,
can't open the PDFs.
oh
And
no.
Nick and I have tried everything, so we're still gonna try a few other things, but we'll get them to him. Poor guy.
Oh yeah. Waiting on Nathan.
He's here. He just showed up in the
I
chat. He
think
said
he's
he was
in.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see where he's at. Cause I like to invite him. There we go.
Hello, homesick Taylor. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good.
Hey, Nathan.
I'm about to eat dinner. So sorry. I figured she's going to
That's all
talk for a
right.
little bit, so I'm going to eat while she does that.
I don't know if I don't
There you
see
go.
Vic yet. Vic said he's probably coming too. He bought a booster for his signal, so hopefully
Oh,
we can.
good.
Yeah, hopefully he can do better on being able to stay online.
Yeah, that'll be helpful.
Yeah, it will.
Mm.
I'm gonna go ahead and do a couple shares and then I'll get started.
Okay. Oh, somebody's in Denmark. Has to sleep. This is a little late for them.
Oh yeah, it is.
Hmm. Have a good evening, 400 Butterfly.
Alrighty. Have to go through. There it goes. It's kind of slow sharing to Facebook for some reason.
Mm.
It always does that though. I've got used to it. Tonight we're going to talk about is Yahweh the dragon who deceives all? And my stance is he is, but everybody can kind of listen to part of this and then kind of decide for yourself whether you think he is or not. Study it out. Um, it's probably controversial for a lot of people because a lot of people think that's Father from the New Testament. But this is going to be interesting for everybody, I think. Because when I first started looking at this, I was like, how many things does he match? You know, I'm big on lists. Okay. I'm going to have to adjust that here. Can y'all see that? Y'all see that
Yes, we
okay?
can see
Okay,
it.
good. All right.
Yep, we can see it.
Revelation 13:16. He causes everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to obtain a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And we know from Deuteronomy that this is, everybody, when they do this thing about the mark of the beast, they always say, Satan imitates God in the Old Testament. Well, I was sitting there watching this Hebrew Roots guy talking. He was correlating back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And he got to about 10 points, and I was like, he's not imitating Satan. He is Satan, or he is the devil. And I was like, it just like a light bulb went off, because his comparisons were so good. And so when I look at Deuteronomy 6:8, it says, "And you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontals between your eyes." Now we know the main game plan from Yahweh in the Old Testament is Zephaniah 3:8, and it's stated many different ways all throughout the text, so it's not like this is just one obsolete and I'm taking that out of context. But he said, "Therefore wait for me, declares Yahweh, until the day I rise up for plunder, which is booty or prey. For my judgment is to gather nations, which is the Goim, or all non-Judeans, to assemble the rains, to pour out on them my rage and my burning wrath. For by the fire of my jealousy all the earth shall be consumed." So his plan is to annihilate the entire planet, basically, except for one group of people. And, Jesus told us, he said, the enemy came to unalive, destroy, and steal. Okay. And one thing people don't realize is where we're at. And that changes your perception of the entire text when you realize where we are located. Because Lamentations 3:66 says, "You shall pursue them in anger and shall completely consume them beneath the heaven, O Yahweh." I mean, beneath the heaven. And that's stated several times in the Old Testament, and I never caught it until after I started looking at this. But when you look at Genesis 1:1 and compare it to 9:1 and 9:2 of Revelation, you'll notice that both are the abyss. It says, "But the earth was unseen and unready, and darkness was upon the abyss. And the Spirit of God bore upon the water," in Genesis 1:2. Well, Revelation 9:1 says, "And the fifth angel trumpeted, and I saw a star from out of the heaven falling onto the earth, and was given him the key to the well of the abyss. And he opened the well of the abyss, and ascended smoke from out of the well as the smoke of a furnace burning, and darkened the sun and the air by the smoke of the well." So we're actually in the underworld, and the abyss is a well underneath us. And we know from John 8:44 that it says that Yahweh, that he was talking to the Jews, and he said, "You're of your father, the devil, and he was a liar from the beginning." Well, when you look at that word for beginning, it's Genesis. And it says, "In the beginning," Genesis. It's like both words are exactly the same. And I didn't even correlate that until I started looking at the Greek. I just was going to show y'all the Greek. This is where I worked out all the verses. Then we know from Amos 9. This is a diagram over here on this side of the way the Jewish people, see the cosmos or the world. It's like they've got a sky vault and then a flat earth, and then underneath there's like Sheol. And when you read Amos 9, you can tell that we're literally like trapped here. Because it said, "And I saw the Lord standing on the altar, and he said, Smite the mercy seat, and the porch shall be shaken, and cut through the heads of all. I will slay the remnant of them with the sword. No one of them fleeing shall escape, and no one of them surviving to save himself shall be delivered. Though they hide themselves in Sheol," and that's the underworld, "thence shall my hand drag them forth. And though they go up to the heaven," which is the sky vault here, that's what the word would mean, thence shall I bring them down. So if they try to go up here, he's going to bring them down. If they hide themselves in the top of Carmel, like on the top of the mountain, thence will I search them out and take them. And if they should go down in my presence in the depths of the sea, which is the seas here, let's see, there I will command the serpent, and he shall bite them. And if they go into captivity before the face of their enemies, like on the surface of the earth, there I will command the sword, and it shall slay them. I will set mine eyes against them for evil and not for good. Just notice the wording on all this, for evil and not for good. And the Lord God Almighty, is he that takes hold of the land and causes it to shake, and all the inhabitants it shall mourn, and its destruction shall go up as a river, and shall descend as a river of Egypt. And it is he that builds and ascends up the sky, and establishes his promise on the earth, and calls the water of the seas, and pours out on the face of the earth. The Almighty is his name. And notice this all has to do with the earth. There's no world above like what Jesus tells us in the New Testament. Are ye not as to me as the sons of Ethiopians, of the children of Israel, says the Lord? Did I not bring up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines out of Cappadocia, and the Syrians out of the deep? Behold, the eyes of the Lord God are upon the kingdoms of sinners, and I will cut them off from the face of the earth, and I will utterly cut off the house of Jacob, says the Lord. For I give a commandment, and sift the house of Israel among all the Gentiles, as corn is sifted in a sieve. And yet the fragment shall not in any wise fall upon the earth. All the sinners of the people shall die by the sword, who say, calamities shall certainly not draw near us, nor come upon us. So everybody that's saying the calamity is not going to draw near them, that's who he's going after. And notice the wording there of sifting, because you know when Jesus was talking to Peter, he said, the devil desires to sift you. You know, he's demanding to. We're told in Luke 11:35, take heed therefore that your light which is in thee not be darkness. You know, we're told that in God there's no darkness at all. Well, when we talk about Yahweh, he's always talking about being wrapped in thick darkness with thunder and clouds and lightning, and you know, it's like this is not the Father in the New Testament, because when we look at this in Luke 21:18, there shall not a hair of your head perish. He's talking about taking care of everybody. John 3:15, and whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have eternal life. And John 3:16 just smacks totally opposite of the Yahweh character, because he said, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believed in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And then John 10:28, and I give it unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. That doesn't sound like the same one that's going to wipe out all the nations but one. This is all that's too small to read, I know, but I just wanted to make an impression here. That is the 40 points that I found that Yahweh matches as the dragon. I'm going to go through a few of them. There's no way I could go through all of them tonight. It'd probably be 4 hours, 6 hours long. Okay. We have a lot of verses in Revelation that talk about the dragon too. I'm not going to read all of those either, because I think most everybody has read Revelations to death or watched videos about Revelation. Okay, here's a point. Both are described as a dragon. And I didn't see this until I started reading the Torah portions when I was in the Hebrew roots stuff. But we're told in Revelation 12:13, and there appeared another wonder in the heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. Then looking at Jeremiah 51:34, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me, and hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He has swallowed me up like a dragon. He has filled his belly with my delicates, and has cast me out. And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place of dragons, and astonishment, and a hissing without an inhabitant. Well, Babylon, I think, is Rome, because the Vatican is all covered in dragons. And that's primarily the deity that they ascribe to worshiping to is Yahweh in the Old Testament. Then when we look at 2 Samuel, this is where you really can see that Yahweh is the only person in the Old Testament that fits the description of a dragon. This is David speaking in this one. It says, in my distress I called on Yahweh. Yes, I called to my God. He heard my voice out of his temple. My cry came unto his ears. Then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations of the heaven quaked, and they were shaken because he was angry. So he was mad when David called on him. Smoke went out of his nostrils. Consuming fire came out of his mouth, and coals were kindled by it. He bowed the heavens, and that word can also be perverted in Hebrew. Also, and came down. Thick darkness was under his feet. He rode a cherub or griffin and flew. Yes, he was seen on the winds of the wind. That sounds like a dragon. He made darkness his shelter around him, gathered the waters and thick clouds of the skies. All the brightness before him were coals of fire were kindled. Yahweh thundered from the heavens. The Most High uttered his voice. He sent out arrows and scattered them, lightning and confused them. And then the channels of the seas appeared, and the foundations of the world were laid bare by Yahweh's rebuke, at the blast of the breath of his nostrils. I mean, that sounds just like a dragon.
Artist,
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt you, but Nathan needs back in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't know he dropped. I'm reading off my screen. I'm not looking at the tablet. It's too small for me to read it on the tablet. So I kind of have to get to the side and look at my screen. Okay. Then we have this same, I'm not going to read it, but just so you can write it down, you have the same description of Yahweh similar in Psalms 18. Okay. In both, the dragon and Yahweh are both fiery. Both of them are described as having fire. Because when he describes the dragon, he describes it as fiery. And like in Leviticus, it says, and fire came out from before Yahweh and consumed them, and they unalived before Yahweh. And then number 16, and fire came out from Yahweh and consumed the 250 men offering the incense. Then we also have, where the smoke and the fire was coming out his mouth and nostrils from the other verses I read. But there's tons of these verses. It says, our Lord is a consuming fire. Everything has to do with fire. Both the dragon and Yahweh have 7 heads. Because, and this is one that I had to really look at, because I was like, it says in Revelation 12:3, the dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon the head. Well, when you read in Joshua 6:4, 7 priests shall bear the 7 trumpets of the ram's horn before the ark. And on the 7th day they shall march around the city, and the priests shall blow the trumpet. So he had 7 priests for the ark. Let's see. And that one, I'm not sure on that. I'm not going to read that part. That's too long anyway for this kind of presentation. When I do this for video, it'll be probably 4 to 6 hours long. Both them have the 7 heads. Here's another part. 1 Samuel 2:10. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Against them he will thunder in the heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth, and he will give strength to his king and exalt his horn of his anointed. All the times they're called horns. The horn of David. There's several horns in the Old Testament on people, and there's a specific reason for that too. But that'll be a separate video. Let's see. Ezra 7:11, and this is the text letter of King Artaxerxes to Ezra, the priest, scribe, and experts in the matter of the Lord's commands and statutes. Artaxerxes, king of kings, to Ezra, the priest, an expert in the law of the God of heaven. Greetings. Issue a decree that the Israelites in the kingdom, including their priests, their Levites, who want to go to Jerusalem, may go with you. You are to send out the council of his 7 counselors to evaluate Judah and Jerusalem according to the law of God, which is your possession. You are also to bring the silver and the gold, and the king and the counselors have willingly given to God of Israel, those whose dwelling is in Jerusalem, and all the silver and gold you received throughout the province of Babylon, together with the freewill offering, are given to the people and the priest in the house of God in Jerusalem. I found that by looking through the Talmud stuff. I didn't even know that was there, that he had 7 counselors, or 7 heads. Okay. Okay, and 17:9, Revelation says this calls for mind of wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 laws and are mountains on which the woman is seated. Well, we know that there are 7 mountains which in the capital in Jerusalem. And there also, when I saw that it could be laws, there are 7 Noahide laws also. And so I think it has to do that. There are 7 capital punishments too. Because when I looked up that word, it says the head both of men, women, and animals, since the loss of the head destroys life. This word is used in a phrase relating to capital and extreme punishment. So it could be the 7 Noahide laws that cause the decapitation. Okay. Skip that part because I'm just going through and showing y'all the main comparisons. Okay. The dragon is also called Satan, or the accuser, according to John. Because it says in Revelation 9, the great dragon was thrown down, the old serpent, he who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. But when we look at 2 Samuel 24:1, it says, and again the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Israel, and he was moved or incited to number Israel and Judah. Okay. Well, when you look at 1 Chronicles 21:1, which is the same account of the same event, it says Satan stood up against Israel and incited David to number Israel. So you've got 2 accounts, and in one account he's called Satan, and the other he's called Yahweh. And interesting enough, that word for number in modern Hebrew is the name for dosing, like to dose somebody. Both the dragon and Yahweh want total worship, and only to them. not to anybody else. Like Revelation 13:4 said, and they worshiped the dragon, and they gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast, and who is able to fight him? Well, when you look at Exodus 34:14, it says, you do not bow yourself or worship to another mighty one, for Yahweh, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. And 1 Chronicles 16:21, ascribe to Yahweh the esteem of his name, bring an offering, and come and bow yourself to him, to his splendor and his set apartness. And then it says in Psalms 148:7, praise Yahweh from the earth, you great sea creatures in all depths, fire and hail, snow and clouds, stormy wind that does his word. It's like that's the things that he commands by his word: fire, hail, snow, clouds, and storms. Both are cast down. And it says that the dragon was cast down onto the earth. Okay. When it says in 2 Samuel that I read y'all that he came down, it literally means to be taken down or to fall, like to be cast out. It's the same word as for like being cast out. Let's see. Here it is here. I pulled it up. This is a major Hebrew dictionary. It says to be cast down, to fall, to go down against one's will, to make a person or thing come down in whatever way, to bring down. I always go look at these actual Hebrew dictionaries to make sure that what Strong's and everything is saying is correct. Okay, this is what Brown Driver Briggs says. It also says to be cast down, to fall, to be brought down, or to descend down to the lower regions. And then I put it in Morphix and checked Morphix too on some of these words: to descend down, to fall, to come off. It's all there. Let's see. We don't need that one. That's just another thing with the cast down word. It says to be cast down, that's theirs. In Greek, it also says to be cast down. That's why I checked that one. Okay. Both the dragon and Yahweh are allowed to conquer the nations. It says in Revelation 13:7, and it was also allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them, and authority was given it over every tribe and every people and language and nation. And you see in Isaiah 40:17, all the nations are as nothing before him. They are accounted by him as less than nothing and emptiness. Jeremiah 30:11, for I am with you, declares Yahweh, to save you, though I make a complete end of all the nations where I have scattered you. So he's still going to make a complete end. Yet I do not make a complete end of you, but I shall reprove you in judgment, and by no means leave you unpunished. And we see this in Isaiah 34:2 and 3 too. For the displeasure of Yahweh is against all the nations, his wrath is against their divisions, and he shall put them under the ban. He shall give them over to slaughter, and their slain will be thrown out, and the stench rises of their corpse, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. Psalms 41:2, for Yahweh the Most High is awesome. He is a great king over all the earth, and he subdues all the nations under us and the people under our feet. So everywhere you look, he's like able to conquer all the nations according to the Old Testament. Both the dragon and Yahweh call down fire. It says that, and he does great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from the heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Okay? And when James and John wanted to call down fire in Luke 9, he rebuked them. And he told them, he said, you don't know of what kind of spirit you are. He said, for the Son of Man didn't come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went off and left him, went to another village. And then when you go to Luke 10, it said he appointed 70 others. He got new people. And you miss that because a lot of times you'll read a chapter at a time and you just kind of skip and miss a context because they broke it on purpose. But when we look at Yahweh, he calls down fire a bunch of times. It's like 2 Kings 1:12. Elijah answered and said to them, If I, a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and consume thee, and thy 50, and he does, he caused the fire down, it came down from heaven and consumed the 50. Yahweh rains fire on Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis 19:24. Let's see. And he does it on the altars, like in 1 Chronicle 21:26. It says David built an altar to Yahweh, and he offered the burnt offerings and the peace offerings, and called on Yahweh, and he answered him from the sky by fire on the altar of the burnt offering. So they both match in that account too. That was more calling down the fire. I'm not going to read all of them. There's just tons of them. Okay, both the dragon and Yahweh have two beasts, one of the land and one out of the sea. When we look at Genesis 1, it says, and God made the beasts of the earth according to their kind, and everything that creeps on it, and God saw that it was good. And curious enough, those beasts are called Therion. And the name of the beast in Revelation is also Therion. So the beast created in Genesis is Therion, and the beast in Revelation is also Therion. Let's see. Yeah, it says, and they worshipped the dragon, for he had given authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast, and who can fight against it? The land beast. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake like a dragon. The sea beast. And I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon the horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. Well, when you look at Yahweh, in Job 40:15 is the land beast, because he said, look now, the behemoth which I made among you, he eats grass like an ox. He was a land beast. And then when you look at Psalms 104, it says, there the ships sail about, and there is Leviathan, which you have made to play there. And I'll wait for you, that you may give them their food in due season. So he literally makes a land and a sea beast. And I think that Moses is probably the land beast, because it says that he has horns and he like a lamb, and he spoke like the dragon, because he's the one that gave Yahweh's words and laws and stuff. And there's a reliable Greek version of the Pentateuch. There's a biblical figure whose name is repeated 666 times, and that name is Moses. I got that from this book here if you want to look it up. I can't pronounce it. Melvin Perez, and When the Thunder Speak, Unmasking the 666 is the name of the book. Let's see. And when Samuel had passed away, and the witch of Endor is calling up Samuel, Samuel comes up out of the ground. I thought that was strange too. And Samuel literally means to hear or listen. And it's like the Shema in Deuteronomy. And you can tell that it's like, I'm not going to get into that though. That kind of gets us off track. I want to stay with these numbered ones so you can kind of see how I saw this. Both the dragon and Yahweh perform signs and wonders. And it says in Revelation 13:13, and he does wonders so as to make fire come down from heaven, and in the sight of men he deceives by his own people that dwell on the earth because of the signs he was granted to do in front of the beast, saying to those who dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast who had the sword wound and lived. Revelation 16:13, I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean frogs, unclean spirits, something like frogs. For they are spirits of demons performing signs, which go out to the kings of all the inhabitants of the world, to gather them together for the war that is the great day of God the Almighty. So they go out to gather everybody together for the war that's the great day, for the big war at the end. And you see here, Exodus 8:1, and Yahweh said to Moses, say to Aaron, hold out your arm and your rod over the river, the canals, and the ponds. Bring up the frogs on the land of Egypt. Deuteronomy 4:33, did the people ever hear a voice of God speaking in the middle of the fire, as you have heard? Or has God tried to go and take a nation for himself from among the nations by trials, by signs and wonders, and by war, by the mighty hand, and by an outstretched arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes? And Daisy, stop. Baby, stop. And Deuteronomy 29:3, the great trials which your eyes saw, and the signs of the great wonders. But Yahweh has not given you a heart to know, or eyes to see, or ears to hear to this day. And then he actually hardens Pharaoh's heart and multiply the signs and wonders so he can do more of the devastation in the land of Egypt. And like I said last night, when you look at what he did, I mean, it's a horror show. It's not good signs and wonders like when we watch the Moses thing on TV. It's nothing like that. It's like, it's scary. I mean, putting lice on people, killing all the things in the water, all the livestock, and the bugs eat all the grain. We covered a little bit about that. Both of them, it says, are men. Okay, well, you don't think about it, but like in Exodus 15:3, it says Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. The word for man in that sentence is Ish, which is specifically a man. And it says in Genesis 3:8, and they heard Yahweh's sound walking in the garden. Now, if he was a man, he would make a sound walking in the garden. We've got Deuteronomy 23, where he asked them to dig up and cover their excrement so he wouldn't step in it. Sounds like a man to me. This is a biggie one. Both of them cause a mark. I've covered that at the beginning, where they have the, you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and shall be as a fontanel in between your eyes. To me, that sounds exactly like the mark in Revelation. And he even says, like in Ezekiel, he said, and Yahweh said to him, pass through the midst of the city, in the midst of Jerusalem, and you shall mark the foreheads of the men who sigh and cry over the abominations that are done in it, and unalive to destruction the old, the young men, the maidens, the children, and the women, but do not come near anyone upon whom is my mark, and begin at my set apart place. So they began with the elders who were in front of the house. Both the dragon and Yahweh have the number 666. Yahweh's number is pi in Greek, which is 666. The 6 is the number of man, and man was created on the sixth day. Yahweh sent the flood when Noah was 600 years old. All the persons that went with Jacob to Egypt were 666. 6 years until you till the land, and then you let it rest on the seventh. 6 days to work, and then on the seventh, you rest on the seventh. She shall continue the blood of her purification for 66 days. The glory of the Lord is reshed on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered for 6 days. And on the seventh day he called Moses out of the midst of the cloud, and Yahweh recreated in 6 days. Let's see. If your brother is a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman is sold to you, she serves 6 years, and then the seventh year you shall let them go free. 6 days you don't eat unleavened bread. Everything is 6. Or 666. Let's see, how long have we been going? Probably about 45 minutes. Y'all wanted to talk some about it now? That's quite a few. We've covered 14 things.
We covered a lot. Yeah.
That's 14 things.
We can have someone come up and talk.
Yeah, I can't believe I did that many of them, actually.
The time just flies by, seriously.
There's 40 of them total.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So would anybody like to come up and talk about it and see if you can come up with others that I didn't mention? That would be a good idea. See if anybody can think of the other ones.
Fonda Truth asked to have some questions answered.
Okay.
If you want to,
see them now though. I can't find them.
Oh no.
You have to send them share it to them, or send them an invite again.
I don't see her.
We might have scared her off.
I hope not.
She said she thought the God was the same God all the way through. Her question was on like the Old Testament, not so much about what you were talking about. She thought this is the same God.
Oh, okay.
I told her, yeah.
That's what we've been told.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone said perhaps the book of Isaiah, maybe Daniel, that Yahweh's description is the same as...
T, whatever that is.
I know.
Is that supposed to be Trump?
Good one.
I don't know.
Me either. Dr. Nicholas Curtis, if you want to finish your sentence in another, or come up.
Yeah, you're welcome to come up and talk.
Yeah, come up and ask us questions.
Even if you disagree, I'm not going to get mad. I'm just sharing what I found, so far.
Exactly.
I don't know who else is here. I did talk kind of a while.
It was very interesting, so if they don't hang around, they,
I was shocked at how many things match.
How do I speak? Oh, there's Homesick Taylor wants to come up.
Okay.
So somebody can invite her. And there she is.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey.
Taylor.
Hi.
How you doing?
Well, I'm doing okay. How are you?
Pretty good.
So yeah, I just a tiny little background. I found your video, the Yahweh Dragon video, about like 6 months ago, and it like shook my world because I had never heard anything like that. But I was in the LDS church, and it is like, I don't know if you know much about that, but it's very cool. And yeah, I was just really afraid of thinking outside of the box, but I never felt good about the Old Testament Yahweh stuff. And anyway, so I'm really grateful. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I do have a couple questions because at first, when I was learning about all this stuff, I kind of threw out Jesus with the bathwater because I was just so, like I was the whole sacrament and the sacrifice stuff, and I was just, it was
Right.
blood. I don't know, freaked me out.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for your videos and talking about two different Jesuses because I'm like, there's a lot of contradictions. And I guess kind of my question here is like, the Last Supper kind of thing, right? So obviously Jesus was with the disciple or the apostles, disciples, and he was, doing all these miracles. But then he was supposedly with the same men sitting at this table, talking about drinking his blood and all that kind of thing. So I don't know, like, do you think they kind of
Right. So I'm not.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry. I just want to try to answer your question real quick. So last night we were talking about the two Jesuses. Did you listen last night at all, or?
No, I didn't, and I have kids, and I wasn't able to get on yet.
Oh, it's okay. I was just curious. I was just asking. So that's why we were talking about when Jesus says, if they say they see me in the upper rooms, or they say they see me in the desert, believe it not.
Okay. Yeah.
There's two of them at the trial with Pontius Pilate. It says that the two that were presented before Pilate was Jesus Barabbas, which Barabbas in Aramaic means son of the Father, and then there's Jesus, who they call the Christ. So I don't know how much you've looked into that or not. I don't know where you're at exactly, but the Christ is the one saying, eat my body and drink my blood, and getting you to do the rituals.
Right.
That's not the son of the Father.
But if they had this, it's like the same apostles, right? Like, does that make sense?
You broke up a little bit, so I didn't hear everything you said. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't hear her.
No. So sorry. I know this is kind of a little bit of a tangent with the. You can't hear. Oh shoot. Okay.
You were breaking up some. I'm sorry.
No. Is it? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Are you on Wi-Fi?
Darn it. Hold. Have to restart the Wi-Fi really quick. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I will go
It's
back
okay.
and listen to the recording. So I
but-
guess my question is, sorry, go ahead.
No, go. I was going to say, go ahead and ask your question because we might be able to answer it now.
Okay. So yeah, my question is I want to dive more into that because I want to listen to your recording, I think is what I am saying, but also I'm curious about like if it was the same apostles that were with Jesus doing the healings, right? But they were the same apostles that they're saying that were at the Last Supper. How do like, you know what I mean? Like how to rationalize that piece of it, right? Does that make sense? I don't know if my question's that clear.
Yeah, it is. You've got two Jesuses. You got one that, like he said, that Pilate says Jesus, that's called the Christ,
Right.
and then you have the one that's Barabbas, that's means son of the Father, and both of them have the first name of Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the Last Supper, I believe that we had one that was the evil one, and because when it said that, haven't I chose you, yet one of you is the devil?
Right.
Remember that? And then when he dips the morsel in the soap and hands it to him, then the devil enters him.
Right.
It's like I don't think that would have come from Jesus, to be honest.
I agree, right? How did the apostles not? So did he look the same? Are we thinking that these two men looked looked the same? Because how would they be following two different Jesuses?
I,
Does that make sense?
well, I don't think they look the same. It says, one says he's sent, and the other one says he's born of a virgin.
Oh,
So we've got- we
how
got
did the
two.
apostles not be able to tell the difference? I guess that's my question.
Oh no, they knew that there was a difference.
There's a passage where he's appointing or naming them as apostles, and it says, then everybody thought he was insane. And I thought, that came out of the blue. Why did they think he was insane? So I went crazy racking my brain about, what about him naming them apostles would have made everybody think he was crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like, because that's the next statement. And they break it apart. Like, they put a little heading. They have him appointing or naming the apostles, and then they have a break. And then the next verse is, he's crazy. I think it's in Mark.
Okay.
But when I went to look at apostle, I did etymology search. I went all over looking at that word. I knew it was tied to apostate, and I thought that's weird that it's tied to apostate. But what I found was apo means from, and stalos, the last part of it, in Hebrew, like Kabbalahism and stuff,
Yeah.
stalos is the prince of hell.
Wow.
So he literally named them, you're from the prince of hell.
Wow. That.
So no wonder they
okay.
thought he had gone in crazy. It's like, why was he naming them that? I'm going to pull that up. If you want to explain some more, Nathan, why I do that, pull that up. I'm going to show her the slide on that. Because I know that freaks people out when I say that, but it is true. And I'll
Yeah.
show you where I got that
So
from.
yeah, apostles wasn't a good endearing term or title.
Well, you know what's crazy is
like
that
we've been
sorry,
led to
go ahead.
believe. No. That's crazy. Tell me.
I just no, you're clearing up a lot of things because I don't, like I said, I came from the LDS, more than the Mormon Church, which they have 12 apostles, and I never felt good about it. And I'm just like, these are supposed to be men appointed by God, and what God is appointing these men? And I know a lot of backstory with these men that they have. I'm not going to go into it on this live, but a lot of crimes against children, and
Oh yeah.
and I'm like, I don't know. So the apostle thing, wow, that just is a huge nugget.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
I think John was really the only one that really understood Jesus, the Son of the Father.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. I think that they were there, they knew who he was, they listened to him, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay.
Because we see a lot in John. John doesn't talk about the virgin birth. We're seeing many times that he's saying that he's sent. Not in John 3:16, where it says, only begotten Son. That word "only begotten," translated from the Greek, is a monogene, meaning monogenetic, from one gene, which means not born of a woman,
Right.
without
And Jesus even
brothers
says,
and sisters.
he even says something like, what's that scripture that talks about, born of a woman, like all of you who have been born of a woman, right? Or
Right,
something like that.
right,
Yeah. Okay.
right. Okay, so you know something.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know
I'm
where
putting
you're
pieces
at.
together.
I just want to know. Yeah.
Well, and then also, what do you guys have any? And this is a tangent, and we don't have to go down this, but isn't there a gospel or a quote unquote Gnostic gospel of John? I don't remember what it's called. Has anybody read that? In the Nag Hammadi, have you heard the Nag Hammadi?
Yeah, I've read it before. I've not studied it like I have the New Testament, like where I break it down and really look at it real careful. I just read it. Here's the word. See that APO? That is means from, and then the stolos, also known as stolos, which is how it's spelled, STOLOS,
Okay.
is known as the great prince of hell that commands 26 legions of demons.
Got chills.
He teaches astrology and knowledge about herbs, plants, and precious stones, and he's depicted as a raven crowned or an owl with long legs. In can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You know, oh shoot, and I just flipped it from where I was.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I wanted to show her the other slide, and I don't know how I ended up messing up where I've lost my place. I'm not very good at this yet. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
You know, that like doing all the techno stuff. Oh, there it is. Okay. This is him. This is the one. And see the little sigil on there? That's one of Solomon's sigils.
Yeah.
That came from the Keys of Solomon.
Right.
There
Yeah,
it
I've read
is.
that. Yeah.
And that used to be a part of the Old Testament. They took it out.
Oh, and Crowley. Yeah.
Yep. And they had in that book it said that Solomon used 72 demons to build the temple, the second temple.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think he was calling them out. Like, and I think they kept following him around, you know, because Peter was the only one he called Satan, remember? And he said, if any man denies me before men, I will deny him before the Father. And you know, Peter denied him 3 times with oaths and curses in his mouth.
Right.
So there's a lot. And like the beach scene, everybody says, but he forgave him on the beach. I think that was the bad one because it said that when they met him, he already had the fire going and the fish were laid on the fire. And immediately my mind went to fish are symbolic of men. And, you know, he was helping them catch more fish. You know.
Wow.
And I think they set up the Catholic Church, to be honest. And I used to be Catholic.
Yeah, Peter was the first pope.
I'm not bashing people for being Catholic. I used to be one, you know. But that's what I found when I researched that word. And John never mentions apostles, which I find real curious. He calls disciples.
Wow. Thank you.
I hope that helped.
It did. Yeah.
Because I had questions about that too. You were just like me. You were thinking on the same line I was.
Oh yeah. Well, everything that I've heard of, you know, from you, I'm just like, oh my, I've had that same like question or that thought, and I've looked into Strong's. And anyway, I do have a question about the Jesus Christ thing and the demons, right? Because I don't know if anybody's heard of Derek Prince, but I used to read those books of like, you know, they shall command out demons or something like that, his book. And he's, you know, uses the term Jesus Christ. And as I'm thinking about all this, I'm like, okay, so with the Solomon, the sigils and everything like that, you can command these demons with the name Jesus Christ. Like, right, you have all these people who say, oh, I have commanded out demons in the name of Jesus Christ. And I'm like, is it because Jesus Christ, right, like the bad one, can essentially like command the demons? I don't, you know, does that make sense? Like,
is he in control of them, right? I know. I thought of that too. I'm not exactly sure, you know, but I would think that the good one could do that too.
Absolutely, right.
Could command one else. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thought, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it. I do have one last question, but maybe I could just put it on your YouTube channel.
Oh, you're okay. If you want to ask, I mean, we don't have anybody requesting to come up yet, so.
Well, this is.
You're fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
I appreciate it. I kind of how I started getting into all this stuff also is like watching, you know, celebrities stuff and kind of going deep into like, and not like practicing, but just, you know, researching like Luciferianism and like signs and symbols, Freemasonry, all of that stuff. And something that has came up a lot is the female goddess. Like, you know, I don't know if you've done any research into that. Shekinah, Isis, like, you know, they actually have a lot of female goddess worship, and it almost seems like there's an element of the feminine that is attached to like the god of this world, or like Satan. Like, think about Mother, the Matrix, like we're in this kind of the womb, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I don't know if you've done any research on that stuff, but
some of it, yeah, because like when in Genesis when it says that he made them man and woman, he made them. The in the Hebrew, it's like he made them like androgynous with both parts,
Right.
and like
They them.
They them. He made they them or something like that.
yeah.
And when they think Baphomet is androgynous, and so the whole androgyny thing I think it stems from Yahweh because he's dualistic in nature. It's a very interesting thing to
Yeah, and
think
like the
about.
polarity, right? Like they like the
Right,
black and
right.
white, the polarity.
Yes.
Okay. Because
Well,
just that
and
thing. Go ahead.
yeah, then Kabbalah teaches, it's that Adam Kadmon, the cosmic egg, all of that. They're trying to get back to oneness and being one again, and that's basically becoming both male and female.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
It's interesting that you know all these things. I rarely get to speak to someone that's knowledgeable like this.
I know. And I try to tell people it's like when you call Jesus the Christ name, you're making him Yahweh's son.
Right.
So if you realize that Yahweh's the evil one, when you actually call him that, you're making him the evil one's son.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the Mormon church, like I have, that's where I have my background, is like they are very much like Jesus Christ, the Christ, the Christ, and it's like they are like diligent about doing the virgin birth, Christmas whole thing, and it's just it never sat well with me. And now learning about Mithricism and Apollyon and all this stuff, I'm like it shows up as Christ's, all throughout different cultures, and the born in a cave or the manger or whatever, and born on the 25th, it shows up like everywhere. And anyway,
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The Christians will always say that, if there's other people saying the virgin birth story thing is an evil thing, and it's like, but not when it comes to Jesus, though.
right.
That's the exception.
Right. Yeah, a lot of cognitive dissonance stuff.
Make it make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great questions, Taylor.
Yeah. Thank you. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
yes, very, very
Yeah.
much so. Very
Yeah,
much
thank
so.
you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
And if you have any more, you can come back up or stay here and ask more.
I would love
Because
to stay.
nobody's coming up, so just say whatever.
Yeah, just stay put. Yep.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to come up? Carry on, Taylor, if you want. Oh, there's somebody else there too.
Yeah. No.
Hey, Boston.
I actually have to step off. I have to go cook dinner for my family, but I thank you.
We
you're
greatly
welcome.
appreciated it. Thank you.
Thanks for
Anytime.
coming.
Yeah. Of course. Have a
Have a great night.
Hello, good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
We
I
can hear you.
Hi, I just love this program. I've been following you guys for like the last 3 or 4 weeks, and not many people are talking about this subject, which is so interesting. So thank you, bravo. I'm totally clapping for you guys. I was hoping to change the subject and mention something. I found out recently about Jarl de Bayoth. I don't know if you guys have been studying him at all.
From the Gnostic text, yeah.
So I found out, interestingly, that he's a dragon and a worm combined. That's his image. And from what I gathered, his mother is Sophia, who is also AKA the Holy Spirit or the Shekinah glory or wisdom. So I was like, okay, so what's the deal with Sophia? So I get into the story where God is self-reflecting. And I guess in the primordial water, there is some type of waterfall situation with the light that's emanating from him. But the story goes that Sophia is the reflection of God through the waterfall. So she is God, but she is not God. Now, as the story progresses, it says that Sophia went to create by herself because prior to this, her and God were creating together, the feminine and masculine energies. But then she went by herself and started to create, and I guess this is where she created Jarl de Bayoth. And in her wisdom, she saw her mistake. So she cast him as far as she possibly could from where she was. And this is where I get this whole thing where, so She supposedly covered him in darkness and clouds so that her husband, aka God the Father, whatever you want to call him, would not be able to see her mistake. So when Yard the Bayoff woke up, she literally cast him so far and so fast away from herself that by the time he opened his eyes, he was all alone in darkness. Okay, then he this line. I am the Alpha, I am the Omega, I am the beginning and the end. Oh, I'm so sorry. That whole phrase comes from the I am the Alpha and I am the Omega, or I am the beginning and the end. Because when Yalda Bayoff woke up, he saw himself and he saw only himself. So the story kind of correlates with the Greek mythology. Because when you get into the whole thing with Zeus having children, and then you have the Apollo story, which correlates with Jesus, Apollo has a twin. So I don't know if you guys found out about Artemis, his sister, but supposedly she is Satan, from what I'm gathering, because Satan or Lucifer is Lucy, who's a female who can change gender at will. Really, really crazy. But
Yeah, I've read these things.
yeah, it goes even further. So when you get into the story of the Sumerian with Enlil and Enki, and how
Yeah.
they're in the Apsu, and how, the Greek mythology, they also govern different spaces. And then you start to question what's really going on, because now here we are in 2024, 2019, people have been talking about the flat earth thing, right? So I'm like, okay, see, I think this is the biggest mistake that people make. Some people think the world's flat and some people think that the world is round. But I beg to differ, because this is, from my perception, all a projection, some type of hologram. Because from what I gathered, in the beginning, God floated over the waters and, his light was emanating over the waters, and he said what he said, and, the world was created. So this is all spirit and water.
Well, what you have to remember, though, is everything that I tell people on here, from my
Yes.
perspective, Jesus' words are truth, and they're the way, the truth, and the light. And he said all that ever came before him were thieves and liars, and the sheep
Yes.
didn't hear their voice. So I discount all that crap, because that's all worldly stuff and worldly, I don't
Well,
even go there.
There's still knowledge there, because you're understanding the construct, you're understanding the world that you're in. I get the direction that you're going, trying to look into those things, because that's what I did. I was trying to understand their interpretations and how the story goes and how they're trying to describe this system in which we're in. And that's what you're saying, right?
Yes, because they all survive off some form of worship. So they're
Right,
gathering
right.
energy from us to continually their immortality. So it's not like God is giving them mortality. They're stealing it from us. And, this whole consume, we're literally their food, walking batteries. Jesus, everything that he said, hits home. He made his points because he didn't have to say anything else. Like, they said that if Jesus was everything that he ever said was out there, it would be written to a book, and the book couldn't possibly be big enough to contain everything he's ever done, right?
Sweet. Come out.
Yes.
I was listening. I wasn't trying to cut you off or nothing.
No, that's just the thing. Like, what Jesus are they actually talking about? Because some people saying that Jesus came directly from heaven. So how can he
Right.
do all these things if he wasn't here long enough? And then you got the people saying that Jesus went to India, that he went to the mystery schools in Egypt, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. This is
Well,
the
yeah.
Apollo.
There's two of them. Have you heard that yet from us?
Oh no, yeah, I actually found you because I was on the same trail. If you begin with the mud flood fossil thing, they're trying to say that the Tartarian Empire, the mud flood, and some reset in history is not what we think it is, and locations have been exchanged. South is west, north is east, and all that other stuff. Like, nothing is everything is a lie, basically.
I do think
Which
they lie
is-
to us about everything, pretty much as
Well,
possible. They try to lie.
I don't know if you guys ever heard of Roger from Mud Flood Fossil. He's on YouTube, but he studies the geographic locations, and he kind of correlates them with physical, biological human parts, animal parts. And if any of that's true, I mean, well, everything's a lie then. So like everything is possible and nothing is possible, which leads me to believe again that this is a hologram, that whatever anybody wants to be real can be real because they are manifesting it through their own will. But, thank you, Yardabar, for Lucifer, for stealing our energy. He's keeping us from being that conscious level where we can call ourselves Christ.
We do believe that. Yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying, and like from what artist is saying a lot, it's letting us know where we're at location wise. Like she was saying at the beginning of the live, that we are from the below. We are in some level of the below. Jesus said that he was from above. That's where his Father resides. I also, do you watch a lot of near-death experiences or listen to those?
Oh yeah, yes, I know a lot about those. I'm against those actually, because from what I'm gathering, there are demons and there's the astral realm and there's manifestation. And if a person is like not very careful, they can be deluded by, images or fantasy worlds. So some people can die, think they met Jesus, but it's not actually Jesus. Yeah. So, and then there are some stories about people meeting their families, but then their families are in a weird situation and they don't question it until after the whole near-death experience, and then they start to see something was wrong with that. It's very demonic because, okay, they said, right, like no man has gone.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Right. So how are people dying? I'm sorry, I'm walking my dog, and I'm using the Wi-Fi services from people's houses.
Yeah, they all worship the cube.
And that this is also because we are in it. This is.
Yeah, this is his prison system. Gosh, I hate that he's breaking up because I can't hear what he's saying. I'm sorry. There's so many things I can't hear what you're saying. I'm so sorry.
My apologies. I'll try again another time, okay? You guys are wonderful, though, and I'll probably call again as much as I possibly can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pastor.
All right, well, thanks for talking.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the platform. Yeah. Have a good night, you guys.
You too.
I couldn't hear everything he was saying.
It was hard. Yeah, he was breaking up a lot.
I've researched a lot of what he's talking about too. I've looked into all of that. It's just more in-depth research about the prison system, in my opinion. I still just I cling to Jesus's words.
Yeah, I think that's
because if Jesus thought a lot of those things were very important, I think we would have had, okay, tell us about the construct more. But I don't think he wanted us to worship or be thinking so much about the bars of the prison cell. Just look, here's how you get out of here, and this is all that matters.
Yeah, love one another.
It's not to say that I study a lot of things. I want to know more. I want to understand things. I want to be able to have conversations with people. So I study the same things, but this is my priority and focus with like the things we're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. Do we have anybody else wanting to come up?
Let's see. Invite this person. You're welcome, Homesick Taylor. Yeah, it's great that you came up and you talked about it, because you seemed like you knew a whole lot, and that was nice to hear somebody that has studied a lot and had all those questions. Those were good questions. Those are the best questions we've had in a really long time.
Yeah, I have a little something to say.
Go ahead.
Like I was saying about the knowledge, like I have, before I came here, I came from the Messianics, and I read and read and read and bought books and read this and did all the stuff that people wanted me to do. I studied all kinds of different knowledge of different things, and I come up with, how Paul lied and sent me on another rabbit trail and all this stuff. And it's good to have that because it kind of drives you in the right direction. But at the same time, all this extra stuff, I find, once you get to a certain point and you know the truth, all that extra knowledge is just knowledge. It's just there. I don't think, Artist and I were talking today.
It's not helping you get to Father in any way, really.
It's distraction.
Yeah. We were talking today, Artist and I, about how we'd like to keep it so that when we talk, we love the questions. We love people's questions and we'll absolutely answer them. We just don't want to go off into all these tangents of all this knowledge of stuff because it is a distraction. And that's exactly what you get on every one of these lives. Somebody will come in and distract. And we just keep trying to pull it back, I know people have questions and I'm not opposed to hearing questions. I just think we really, the important part is Father gave us a job to do. He wants to get as much of his truth out as we can get out so that we can stop people from being deceived. And, God knows what is going to happen. So we want to just get that truth out to them. And Golinov has all this information the Father has given her on these studies. We just have to get this stuff out. And when I'm commenting in the comments about, put it back on track or this is all a distraction, I'm not doing it to be rude or mean or anything like that. I just want everybody to see Father's truth. So anyway, I just wanted to know that. That's why I comment like that in the comments.
Wow.
It just feels like distraction.
More. It is. It's nothing but distractions. Some of it is good, and there may even be a little truth sprinkled in there. But man, let's stay on track.
We don't know. Some of the stuff that they're talking about is truth, probably. But
yeah,
But what's the important
really,
stuff?
It's right.
I think for him, I really don't think he was saying anything negative. He's just coming from a different background.
No, he wasn't negative. He wasn't negative. I didn't find him negative. It's just more that it drifts off into these other conversations, right?
Well, I just found it interesting what he was saying because he was saying that his research and studies from that whole background were aligning up with these things, and that's a huge thing for him. Because now he can see this Christ thing and this Son of Father thing. And I know that everybody's coming from a different background, and we don't know what people are watching and researching and doing. Because there's people, but we're going to have people that are Satanists, we're going to have people that are atheists, and I really think that this truth is big because it's tying everything together for everyone, not just one little group of people. It's making the people, because the atheists and the Satanists, they see the whole character of Yahweh pretty clearly. They study it a lot, but then they can't connect the ties with things that Jesus is saying, so they throw it out and say, oh, well, that's clear. The church is telling us this, so that's not right, and then they just say, you're dumb for thinking this, it contradicts itself, instead of looking in further. I didn't want to just cut him off or nothing like that. I actually understood his perspective because I had studied all those things, and I was like, okay, he's coming to the same conclusions the same way I did. So I was trying to encourage him into this direction. Is that right? But everything with Sophia and Yaldabaoth, those things, I was looking into that a lot because... But then I just saw it's like, okay, this is the construct. This is the system, and they are explaining these things where it's like, okay, like how much do I want to know about this at this point when I know what it is? But, with some people, they haven't figured it out yet.
He could be right about some of that stuff. I don't know. It's not that I don't think he's right. It's just that Golinov has this information in all these studies that has the truth of how we can actually have people get saved and not be deceived, and they can see the truth, and then if we let everybody take us off the wrong direction, although I think it was good that Golinov had this time to talk. She had a good 45 minutes, and That's great. And having any questions come up is good too. I think we all, like Sally in the comments as well, like just, I find that it veers off onto, like, I just don't want to take this all in the wrong direction is all. Do you understand what I'm saying?
He was trying to do it. I think he was just trying to say that from his Gnostic perspective that he's starting to agree and see what we're saying, which is
He's
huge
on the right track.
He is,
I think
absolutely.
he's on the right track too. Like they talked about everything that he talked about was the stuff that I was listening to and researching when I was in New Age, and so everybody's at a different place at different times, and the fact that he wants to be here and he's listening, the truth will set you free.
Well, I'm glad he's here.
Hopefully this channel is going to bring people to the truth so they don't do what you're talking about, Aileen. So they, the rabbit trails are deep, and that's part of the deception, is to steer people down these rabbit holes away from the Father. That's part of the enemy's plan, and all of the other
my point. Exactly.
all of the other religions and Gnostic stuff, it's all a big distraction away from Father. But if people are searching and they're wanting to come to the truth, like what we talked about last night, like once you get this revelation, once you learn this truth, you can't unsee it. So there's no going back into that,
Yeah, because you've seen too much to know.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got somebody that wants to come up, guys.
Halston Ford, if you want to come up, you can request. I mean, I can invite you. Let me see. Hold on. All right, I sent him an invite. Hello, Shannon. It's nice to see you again.
Hi, Shannon.
Hey, Shannon.
I think, I do see that. I see on TikTok a lot of times people are just coming into the room selling their idea of all of this, and it's more about them promoting their agenda than asking questions about what we have seen, and that hurts. I mean, Golanon has put a lot of time and energy in this. It hurts the cause, and I think that's what
Tens
Elaine
of thousands of hours.
Yes, and it shows, and so staying on track's important, but we want to listen to people's ideas too. A little balance there is okay, but I think the other night that
for sure,
the dude with the shroud thing, I mean, he just stole the show, and I think I was messaging you, child. You
were. I was like, hold on, let me bring it back.
I've noticed he makes the rounds on TikTok, though. That guy does.
Oh, that's what they do. They go into these rooms, and then you find out they got a book they're trying to sell or something too. And they're all scientists, and everybody's an expert. And
I was in somebody's live, and he was in there doing the same thing to them. I was like, okay.
Here we go.
Showing a picture of the T-shirt and all of that too, probably. My boss is a Jewish carpenter or something like that. I was like, oh boy.
No.
I don't. But I really don't think some people coming in here, they're not genuinely seeking the truth, and you can tell right off. And if somebody's sincerely and genuinely seeking the truth, I feel like we should hear them out. Even with the Boston guy, I saw some parallels with some of the things he was saying, and if you go back in history, I mean, it's possible that some of this stuff there, when you think of the Christ, I mean, born in a cave. I mean, when he said that, so it's all Yahweh, it's all the same. You look at all these different religions, even the New Age thing, it's just Yahweh all over it. And, so, sometimes a little patience with them and plant a seed.
I don't have a problem hearing some of it. I think where my frustration came in was just that we don't know how at this point, because we're new to this, is to learn to pull the reins in and bring things back to, the
Right.
point of this whole thing. And
Right.
I have no problem with people speaking. We just have to, because you've seen how many people have come in and try to divert the conversation off of what we're talking about.
Oh.
And, I know that the questions will, like when people have legitimate questions, they might veer things a little because they need to get the answer to that question. But to go into the theory of this and this is what this is and what this is, and then it
Right.
carries on and
Right.
it goes too deep, and that's not
Right.
the kind of knowledge that we need for this. That's all I was saying, and I'm going to stop now.
Oh, it's okay. It's not helping you get
No,
the Father. It's just helping you study the prison cell more. That's what I was saying. That's like I get where we're at, so I don't want to be here either, but I have to do what I got to do while I'm here, and there's some purpose, and I'm here now, and I'm going to do what I have to do, and whatever Father's
Yeah,
trying
absolutely.
to get me to do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
understanding the prison cell isn't really going to bring me to the truth. We study the,
No, Taylor,
like
your
Nathan
questions
said,
were
we
not off
worship the
topic.
bars.
No, they go right along with this. I just decided
Yeah.
to show how he is the dragon tonight.
Okay, someone
Yeah.
wants to come up. Okay, I'm gonna accept. Why isn't he up? Oh, there it is. Okay.
I mute all this anyway.
Hello.
I swear, I've been listening to some of these like debate lives, and I'm just like, you keep on wanting to bring up that number 9. So I'm like, my mind goes to Dante's Inferno. I'm just like, it explains a lot on why they're all speaking this wicked, like all this wicked stuff and lying and trying to
Right.
steal from each other and
Right.
being sexually explicit. And I'm just like, Jesus.
The
Please take
arguing.
something, Jesus. Oh, God.
Yeah, all the arguing. That's what blows me away. Most of these rooms you go in, people are getting livid about things knowledge that really doesn't even matter in the
They really
grand scheme
don't.
of things. You realize you're going to die someday. Maybe you might want to try to figure some things out about the truth we're talking about tonight, and instead of but I missed the beginning, Colin. On, I apologize, but maybe you can recap.
I did 14 comparisons between the dragon in Revelation and Yahweh.
Yes.
Yeah, trying to show I found 40 so far that he
Wow.
lines up with 40 points from there, and
Wow.
I was just showing a few of them.
It's such an interesting topic. I saw your post on Facebook earlier about it, and I was like, wow, this is really cool because, I believe we are coming into this age where, Satan knows I think they can read the stars. I was talking to Child about this on the telephone, and I think these Jesuits or whoever, these children of Yahweh, they know these stars or something. I don't want to say stars. They know something's up. And
Well, it's
I
the
believe
they
construct.
definitely know.
Oh, yeah, they know it all. They know what it all is.
Yes, they do.
They don't want
The
us to know what it all
soothsayers
is.
No, and for us, it's lost knowledge. It's something that I think I have really put a lot of time and energy into studying the cosmos and the movement of the stars and different phenomenon that's going on. And I don't see anything of, what would you say, biblical proportions happening in the stars. I do see a few things, but, so time is short. Time is short. I think we're coming either into, I hate that word reset. I don't like it too much. I think they're calling it a reset all the time. But I mean, I just think he's going to come back and get us. I don't believe in all this guillotine and the heads being.
It's up for, yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I'm not sure myself still, but.
Mm-hmm. There's so much to learn there. I think but it's like Aileen was saying there. You know, we need to really just stay focused on the truth, and that, you know, people need to understand there was an imposter, Jesus, and he did a phenomenal job.
Many, billions of people believe this now. Yeah, on every
43
corner.
years. I always say this. I know I sound like a broken
and trillions
record.
of dollars.
Yeah.
And all these things. Yeah. It's wild. Oh.
And honestly, do you think if Father had churches, do you think they'd look like these cathedrals
They wouldn't look like they do in Europe.
No, it'd probably be a barn somewhere with people sitting around drinking beer. I don't know. I shouldn't.
No.
I shouldn't have said that. But you know what I mean? But
well, that would be Yahweh's people.
I look at the people that he uses, and just looking at myself, I'm just a simple, common nothing, and to have this truth come to me, and then to have somebody who, you know, when Child called me that one night, and my eyes were opened, and then he said, "Oh, you got to really start watching Golanon's videos." And look, I wasn't 10 minutes into these things, and most of these videos, I'm like, oh, so not only do I have the truth, I've got somebody who's taken the time to break it down. But just, I really think that, you know, this thing about the dragon and the end times, and, you know, the 666, I always kind of thought that was a bunch of flim-flam until Golanon was, you know, talking about, you know, the 666 actually being the number of Christ.
Right.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Am I correct, artist?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's its place right there. I mean, are we going to get a mark on our forehead or our arm and hand? And you know, I don't even know. You know, Father feeds me anyhow. Not Yahweh, and that's just how I see it. And you know,
see that right there with the line over it?
Right.
That's why I say it's a nomosaic, because it has a line over it. You don't see that when you look at interlinear either.
Wow. See, I never actually saw that. No, I have seen that. I think that's in one of your videos, isn't it?
And it doesn't matter which text you go to, whether it's the one that they say is 616 or 666, it's still Christos. It's a nomosaic for Christos in both of them.
Phantom, did you have a question? Or I saw you come up. I don't want to be ignoring you.
That's okay. You know, I'll add when there's a space to add. I just came up because you guys were talking about, you know, children of Yah and how they know the stars. And there's actually someone I do follow who, you know, they go by the older belief, like the Bantu people, and they follow, you know, Yahweh, but they have a much different view in terms of like who's who and what's what.
Right, there's a lot of people that have different views.
Yeah. So, like I said last live, I follow Jonathan Kleck, and I think it's good to watch how he breaks down things sometimes. But also, I think his name is Yashariel. I could get the actual link if you guys are interested in like watching and seeing what you can learn from it.
Pretty sure the host is pretty familiar with Jonathan Clegg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff.
Okay.
I haven't really watched his stuff, but I know he's popular amongst the
I think
TikTok
that's actually
sphere.
that might be how I found you, artist. Might be from John's lives. But Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to be helpful. I don't know more than the next person, you know.
Oh
No, it's
no,
okay. It's
the more I've studied, the more I've realized I don't know. It's like
Yep.
it just gives you
Right.
more
okay.
fuel to learn more. It's like it's
Well, it's a matrix for a reason, right? It's meant to keep us confused, seeking. There's endless knowledge, and I think that's what Solomon fell into. Is he drove himself mad trying to get the answers. You know?
yeah.
I'll say something here about knowledge, and this kind of came to me in my quiet time with Father this morning. Knowledge is good, but I think our culture puts too much emphasis on it. I realize it's part of the deal. Don't get me wrong. But you know where it really comes down to is wisdom. And, wisdom is the proper application of knowledge, the proper understanding of knowledge. And so our culture, it's all about knowledge. Go to college and get knowledge. Go to school, only the knowledge they want you to have. But the more knowledge and degrees you have, the more money you get and the higher you are in his system. And so, I don't want to bash knowledge. Wow, there's some
Well,
great things
it's even
people
that way
share
in
in
the
here, but
religious aspect too.
yes, the
And
And,
asking
theologians
and
and the
Father too. It's like people ask me. They say, how did you come on all this stuff? It's like every time I say, okay, Father, show me what you need me to know. You know.
wisdom. You're
Yeah.
well, this is
asking
why I
for
was going to say
wisdom.
about the
Yeah.
Yes.
Gnostics that the Gnostics are gnosis means knowledge, and they pretty much worship that part of it. I mean, I'm not saying that it's
Oh, yeah.
exactly what they do, but I mean it. Their whole understanding is, oh, you got to have more and more knowledge, and the more knowledge you have, and
Right.
so there's just this eternal search of knowledge forever. And it's like, well, Jesus didn't say anything about that, so it's like you're going off so far. It's like you could understand everything about the world and you never get this.
I don't want to sound like I'm bashing it. I'm not a very knowledgeable man myself. I
No,
do
I
have a
wasn't saying that. I
bachelor's
wasn't saying
degree, and it's not, but I just feel today's culture, every corner I turn, and, it seems like the more letters you got next to your name, the more people uh, tend to believe you. And I don't know. And I look at the people who were close to Jesus Bar Abba, and I think they were just simple. I mean, simple people.
Right. I
So
think they were too. I really do. And it's like we used to say when I was a trauma nurse for many, many years, and it's like it takes a lot to do trauma, but a lot of it's common sense. Like you've got to be as good in the wisdom department as you are in the book sense, and
yes,
we used to get these bosses that come in and they didn't know anything. And we'd say, well, BS is BS and PhD is piled higher and deeper. And it's because they had no common sense on how it really was to work in the actual traumas. And if they had had to do it, they probably, a lot of them couldn't have done it. It was
right,
funny.
right.
And it's like they were good at pushing the paperwork and keeping up with the materials and the staff and all, but when it came to actually going in there hands on with the trauma, they would have been like, you know.
Right. Yeah, back when I was a
Go ahead, Terry.
supervisor, uh, um, one of my careers, these techs would come in out of school and they'd have all the head knowledge, but boy, you send them out in the field and worthless because they had no ability to apply that knowledge.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
the
Right.
same thing with being a mechanic. You work at, when I worked with Mercedes, these
Oh,
kids coming out of tech schools, oh my gosh,
yes,
they do
yes,
everything except how to actually do anything. They mess
yeah.
stuff up all the
Put
time. Couldn't even do
putting
oil
their little
changes right.
certificates. Yeah, putting all their little certificates around their toolbox. Their degrees
The
and stuff. Yeah,
experience
I'm
but
sorry, I
the
can't
thing
read
is,
our guest that's in the panel's name because of my tablet being so small. But do you have any questions, hon, while you're up here? I I didn't want you to feel ignored.
No.
Yeah, we can.
There's a lot of people on here too. I don't want to overshadow
Ah,
either.
you're fine. You're up here on the panel. Nobody else come up.
Do you?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out your name here. It's a bunch of symbols. Is that Egyptian phonics or something? What's
It's
your
just
name or
it's Gothic text. It's Phantom. Phantom.
Phantom? Okay.
Yeah, it's from that verse. I think it's Psalm 39, where it's like we're but
Psalms.
phantom. But man,
Well, you were on here the other night, and I was listening to you, and you really had some interesting questions, and a lot of what you believe is very parallel to, I think, what we believe. So glad to see you back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. I'm trying to make a Discord for people, but the thing is, I'm inclusive. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what I believe, therefore I'm not gonna push anybody else out for what they believe. You know what I mean? But I had a question about the Holy Spirit, because what do you consider blasphemy of the whole, like, for real? Like, we're not asking for the church version answer. What do you think blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is?
I'll let going on answer that.
That's a tough question to me. I've heard a lot of people
It's a
give
great
different
question.
answers to it. It's a great question, but it's also a tough one. To me, it means like knowing who Father is and His Spirit and all, and then rejecting it. Like rejecting Him or denouncing Him. Like saying I don't want it. Does that make sense? I mean, does anybody else have a different idea of what they think it is?
No, I think the same thing. I think once you learn and once you understand who He is, and if you turn away, I think that's blaspheming the Holy Spirit.
I think what Jen just said was a great answer, really. She said, I think it's when you are given divine knowledge that you cannot refute, but then you do. It would be like us.
That's pretty
doing
much what I'm
we
saying,
that's what I
Jen.
said. Yeah, same here.
That's similar to what I'm trying to explain. Yeah.
I mean, for us to turn away from everything that we know now, I mean, that would be really bad. Because to have this head knowledge now, and you can see it, that you can't unsee it. Well, even if you try, and you have somebody that's dragging you back down into the world and whatnot, you still will just have that guilt and say, no, I know the truth. Oh no, because you just can see it in everything, in every aspect of life, where you're like, I can't do this. Oh, I can't. And you will have that yearning to just be like, I got to get back on track. I got to go back this way because I know what I'm supposed to do here, which I think a lot of people are so confused. They don't even know purpose or what's going on. They don't even know what to believe in. So I understand those people. I get it. But then when you're given so much truth, and Father's helping you along, and you're asking for it, and then you're gonna be like, nah, I'm just not gonna do. I couldn't even really see anybody really doing that though. That's this far into it, when you spent thousands and thousands of hours trying to figure it out.
Well, that too, and like when you have a relationship, it carries you back, because there's a million times that I found something out and I was like, I'm done, and then I came back, and then I was like, okay, I'm not done because I'll never be done. But at the same time, because I know the verse itself is like right where he's talking about them blaspheming the Holy Spirit. It happens right after they say he's evil, I think, or something like that. And then he starts telling them like this will never be forgiven. But I found something in the verse where Noah receives the olive branch. The dove.
Yeah.
Right.
The it's feminine. So the dove is supposed to represent the Holy Spirit, and she brings the olive branch to Noah. So someone told me that was blasphemy by saying, she could be female, but I don't, I don't see it as an offense. I don't feel like it's offensive.
I don't even make that connection. I think he's kind of reaching a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't ever want to fall into that, but at the same time, like, I have questions.
I came close to just throwing everything out multiple times. I'm like, I'm over it. Oh, it's so much. I mean, it's so overwhelming. Then I'll come back to it.
I always try to tell people when I make the videos on all this stuff too, it's like, please don't throw Jesus out with all this, because I think once you do, you've got nothing. It's like you're just lost. And it's like, and I debate, well, should I tell them even say that? Or, because I don't want to cause one person to ever walk away from him. Ever, ever, ever. But at the same time, he said we would know the truth, and the truth would set us free. So I have to trust that what I'm being shown is the truth, and when I put it out there that I can say this and say it without fear, that somebody will just throw it all out.
Shannon asked a question. Do you think the Apostle Paul ever knew who our true father is, or was he always Yahweh's boy?
Oh, that's a...
I mean, he was very adamant about preaching the Christ this, Christ that. I mean, we probably wouldn't even know what that word was if it wasn't for him. So, I mean, he's saying a lot of things where he's saying, if anybody preaches a different Jesus than the one you've heard here, let him be accursed.
And he set up the image, the first image, because he said he bore the images of Christ, don't let anybody bother him, and it meant in buying and selling. I think they were the first ones to set up the initial beast system,
Yeah, and then what's the one that they were writing the books by candlelight? They translated as they were burning books, but really they were sitting there writing the books and selling them for silver.
True.
Yeah, I mean.
And they were the Jewish vagabonds were having them denounce Jesus and then swear an oath to the Jesus that Paul taught.
Right.
And then it said the demons knew Paul and that Jesus. So that too made me suspicious there,
But they tell you such a good narrative and story on top of it. The churches do. Oh, well, that just means, of course they do that. Oh, whatever. Oh. But it's like, no, it's affiliated. That's why it's there. It's a part of it.
Yeah, the implications if you don't trust Paul, though, are very big. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure I trust Paul.
For the Christians, yeah. Oh, I don't at all.
Yeah.
But I get that people are at different places. That's a hard one. Because it was hard for me when I started to really look at Paul differently. That was extremely difficult for me, because I'm like, he takes up half the New Testament, and you're pretty much, and if you go into any church today, it's pretty much, 80, 90% of everything they're saying and preaching is coming out of Paul's letters. And then, you're lucky if they throw or quote Jesus in there, or throw something from, anything he said. So that when I started to see that, and I remember the host here telling me that back even when I was going to church again, because I was trying to figure it out after I got out of Hebrew Roots. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I just need to go to a church and see what they're saying. And then I'm like, gosh, it's the same type of thing, though. And then there's Calvinists and these other types of denominations. And I'm like, gosh, this is just as evil. And I'm looking at John Calvin, who's trying to unalive people that don't agree with him and believe how he does. I'm like, oh, that sounds like Yahweh to me. And this guy's saying he follows the Christ. Like, and then we got Spurgeon and all these people that followed after Calvin after the years. I mean, coming up to where we're at now, it's like, it's always kind of been this way. They've always been in alignment with this whole Yahweh thing. Pretty much since the inception.
Reading in the comments. reading in the
No.
comments here, Jan made a comment, and this my thing with Paul is, and I've heard this in here in this group before, this dualistic nature, and that's what I see in Yahweh. It's like he gives good fortune to people, but yet then he unalives people with the other hand. It's that dualistic thing, and I see that so much in his writings. It's love and hate. And I think with Father, it's all love. I don't believe in this going to put the flame torch to you if you fart sideways. Can I say that? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That type of deal.
Yeah.
And then not to mention the Damascus Road experience that he had. I mean, his whole thing starts off with this blinding light and all of this This just sounds like Yahweh and Moses coming down from the mountain and growth. I wonder if Paul
he's got the story
where
he says he saw Jesus, but every time he tells the story, it's different. It's like, well, which one's true? Because you tell it 3 different ways, 3 different times. And Jesus said that if they say they see me in the desert, believe it not. And that's where he said he saw him. So it's like, I don't trust him. I don't trust him.
I believe that Peter was Abaddon, because the popes call themselves Abaddon. Okay? And then Saul and Sheol are the same word in Hebrew. And it's like, and you know how it says that Abaddon and Sheol are always before Yahweh? Like, you know that verse in Psalms? It's like he says they're before him, they stand before Yahweh. So I think it's them too.
I really, in my personal opinion, if you were going to ask me about Paul and just analyzing it and let's just make a blanket statement about it, it's like, to me, it strongly reeks of Jewish infiltration into the teachings of Jesus. And he was a Jew. He was unaliving people and doing all this and that. Then he changes his name, and now he's had this profound change in him or whatever. But still, in the beginning of Acts, they're already unaliving people. So it's like
there's a Kabbalah teacher on YouTube that's a rabbi, and he says that Peter and Paul were set up to get everybody under the Noahide laws, and they have a special feast day that they keep for Simon Peter.
Wow.
That's a secret feast day, and they have a fast for him. But in their mind, he said that Simon Peter was highly honored because he routed all the Goim to be, or the non-Jews to be, under the Noahide laws. And that makes sense because when you look at the 10 Commandments in the Catholic Church and their instruction books, they're missing 3 laws. They're missing the first 3. They just are supposed to, do certain things out of the 10 Commandments, and then the rest they're not obligated to.
Built the church over Peter. His tomb is literally underneath.
Yeah, it's under the altar, and that altar that you see in that picture at St. Peter's, that is the same altar that is on the front of the Zohar. I think Peter wrote the Zohar. Have you ever read the Zohar?
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah, it smacks of Peter up one side and down the other. And then they've got that big black statue of him over to the right, and it's like they have literally worshipped that and touched it till the toes are wearing off the statue.
Saying, remember the verse where Jesus is out on the water and he's like, "Come here, Peter." And Peter gets out on the water and he takes one look and he's like, "Ah!"
Yep.
This is the guy, you guys, this one?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there you have it.
Yeah, that's yeah.
To me, they took his words and wrapped their Jewish narrative around them. And they like the words, but they didn't really understand them. And then the people loved what Jesus said. And it's like they just kind of took his words and stuck their narrative around it. It's very interesting, really.
Yeah, attached there.
Eric in the comments. Like I personally stick in John and Matthew a lot. But Psalms is very, very good. I like reading Psalms and Proverbs.
The problem with that is you're getting dualism in Psalms, because they're telling you smash babies against the rocks and things,
I think it's only
pleases Yahweh.
Yeah, I think it's only dualism if you don't understand. I think it's dualism.
I understand it, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying that Psalms is from Yahweh. It's that's all Jewish belief systems, which I don't think Jesus had anything to really do with at all.
The real dualism,
There's probably some good things that are said in it. I'm not saying that there's not, but Yahweh is dualistic. Father is not.
Yeah, I'm just saying the real dualism is making a separation, though. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, the creator of all is still the creator.
Jesus made that separation
For us, but in the existence, that still remains. No matter how you look at it, the creation still remains. So it's still...
we're still here.
It's one of those things where it's good to have understanding so you know who's worthy of worship and who is not. But at the end of the day...
Saying the last time, we didn't see Jesus telling anybody to bow down and worship him and command them to worship him or anything like that. Yahweh's the one that demands worship. He's the one that demands blood sacrifice and the smoke and the fire and that's what we're seeing from him. And we don't see any of that from Jesus. You get what I'm saying?
I agree.
I get what you're saying. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Like
it's a harder. It's okay. It's a harder take because it requires completely emptying. And I had to go through it because I did go through that. Like when I was looking into the Gnostics, I fell into I saw Yaldabaoth and I went, oh my gosh, that's a lion-headed serpent. What?
Right. They focus too much on the construct. They focus too much on the knowledge and the prison system we live in, and you could study that for eternity, and you're never going to get real truth. You could understand where you're at more, I guess, but
all I needed to do was see a picture, and I got it. You know what I mean? I didn't need to go read the text. I got the information from that.
Yeah, that's how I was with Gnosticism, so...
At the end, because I think that
they got some things right. I mean, at least they knew Yahweh was evil, but they
what
didn't
about
get it
the
all
one
right.
statement that's made that you can't mix good with evil? So how do you get duality and say it's okay when there's two things going on in it, good and evil? But yet Jesus, like they say, don't mix good and evil because the Father's not good and evil. So how do you make duality?
Well, if we're looking at it in terms of light is light and dark is dark, those have always existed, and they will until there is no more.
Father is light, there's no darkness in him.
If you read in Genesis, the darkness was there from the beginning, and so was he.
Yeah, that's Genesis.
Yeah,
that's the Jewish story of creation.
Oh, so
exactly. There's two creation stories.
You guys don't adhere to Genesis at all.
I think John 1:1 was the real Genesis.
Okay.
I think he was telling us the truth there with that, because these Jewish stories and things, I mean, you just got to look at them as a whole and what they've done and how they've operated in humanity over the thousands and thousands of years they've been here and been pushing whatever they're saying.
You know how he said in John, I didn't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry. I just had a thought come to my head. I'm sorry, Nathan.
Okay, I was about to go off.
You know how he said, he was talking to the Jews and he said that your father was a liar from the beginning? Well, that word is Genesis. It's like he was literally taking us back to say, okay, from the Genesis, it's not the truth. And even like the trees, think about the trees when he said a good tree can't produce evil fruit. Okay, but you've got a tree of good and evil knowledge. I mean, that doesn't mix with what Jesus taught us.
It's not lining up.
It's not lining up.
I
Yeah.
would see that as the moment that they ate from that fruit was when they had the knowledge of evil, and prior they would have been okay because they didn't
Right.
have evil. Yeah.
Yep.
And that the serpent tricked Eve because they knew that they would have been thrown into the matrix.
Always think of this now. They said he spoke not unless he spoke in parables. Okay, a parable was not some mystical meaning that we can't understand. Parable simply came from the word parabola in Latin, which means to compare. So every time he's telling us something, he's giving us a comparison. And if you think in that term and then try to look for it, the old book serves us in that manner because we can see what he was trying to tell us, what he wanted, Just compare it to this old, what I'm saying now, And that's kind of how I've started looking at the entire thing. And hopefully helping other people see what I've seen because I think it's the truth.
Me dropping seeds, that's for sure.
Well, thank you. I hope so. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think it was right,
Yeah, I just I lived in religion for a very long time, so I'm very hesitant to go back into religion. But I
wouldn't. Do not.
I would not.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So when it comes to like people's understanding and beliefs of things, I think the Lord is leading us all to where we need to be led, and it's good to learn from each other. But I'm not an artist.
Yes.
If I don't agree with a point, okay.
I don't think of myself as a teacher either. I'm just sharing what I found, and it's up to each individual to go look at and seek it for themselves at that point,
I saw Genesis as genetics, so it's just like the I didn't see it as an actual story. I saw it as more like an allegorical. But who knows? I don't know. So you guys adhere to Matthew and John primarily? Is that what you're saying?
I'll be honest. I really only most of my focus stays on John. I like the other gospels because they're giving accounts and records of things that we can look at. But I really think John understood the Son of the Father, and he was saying it the right way. And I think that's why there's such an attack on his book, especially from the Jewish community. They want it totally taken out, or they want disclaimers put on these new Bibles now, because that's the book where Jesus says you're of your father. The pronouns are real important there. Your father, where their father would have been Yahweh. Your father is the devil.
Kind of a sidebar, but not entirely. Have you guys, the current events and how things are going and how things look like Revelations, right?
Yeah, they're trying to play things out on the world stage. Who knows what they're doing?
So you see it as a great delusion, or do you see it as valid?
I'm undecided.
Undecided. Okay.
I would kind of call myself a partial preterist in a sense, because I think that it all happened in 70 AD, but yet I think that we're like in a little season type thing where they're trying to repeat it, and maybe they do get to repeat it. I don't know in the little season. I have no idea. But I know that it matches what we're seeing in the world today,
Yeah. Can I fill in some conspiracy theorist knowledge that might...
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, yeah, we're into that.
Okay, bet. So you know how this is a matrix, right? We've established this is Yahweh's matrix here. There are certain codes in place and certain information regarding the stars specifically that are set in place for times and events. So when these keys line up in the matrix, it unlocks a different program. And it was September 23rd, there was the child Shiloh.
This is good here. I like this.
Yeah. You know about this. You've heard this. You know what I'm talking about.
I've always been a stargazer to start with, and following
you damn devil.
Yeah, I'm the damn dad.
No,
I
no.
miss this. It's my dad. It's my dad. I'm messing with him.
That's my dad
Yeah, he
too.
can.
That's my dad too. And my dad and I used to.
No,
that's
no,
why
like
I'm
like
no,
like
no.
actually, no, like in real life, he is my dad. I was just
Oh,
messing with him.
He's an actual
Yeah,
pop.
when I first came in here, my name was Vic something. When I first started coming into this group, and I had my son calling me Vic, which is child there, and I said, I gotta fix this. This is odd, and so I went with Tab. But let me say, no, I wanted to hear more about what you had to say, and I probably won't refute anything because this is the thing we don't realize prior to television and radio and all of this. Do you know what people did for entertainment in the evenings? They watched the stars. And even as a young child, a 10, 11, 12-year-old child would know the stars and the movements of them. And if anything strange would develop, everybody knew about it. And so I think the way Yahweh knew that Jesus Bar Abba was coming, and he was able to lay out his Christ thing, Jesus Christ thing, as a substitute. How
Right
did he
in the
know
age
that?
of Pisces.
He saw it.
Yeah,
he saw it. In the
he
stars.
knew that. Yeah, he knew it
And
was
so
coming.
here, Phantom just brought up something here that I got a chill up my spine when she said this, because I think the hidden knowledge of studying the stars, it's not for us, anybody in this room, first of all, I want to say that. But possibly people are starting to figure it out smarter than me. But I'm telling you, there's probably something going on in our soul. I don't want to say in the firmament with the stars and the movement of them that Yahweh knows. Father's getting ready to come back and get us. So what's he going to do? He's going to bring in a fake, an imposter. In the end, we all know, you talk to people and say, religious people, there's going to be two Jesuses in the end. They'll agree with you. The real Jesus and the Antichrist.
Yeah, I've thought about
You can't get
this.
any good
Yeah.
Baptist to agree with you on that. So here again, we see Yahweh playing his cards. How does he know when to throw down the four aces? Well, he knows the stars. And I don't know. If I'm wrong, correct me. I'm always open to learning. Please go ahead, Phantom. I hated to cut you off.
No problem. The stars aren't for him. The stars are for his children, Yahweh's children. I was gonna say us because I'm still, I'm still learning. So I can give you information that I have. You know what I mean? Shiloh, the child, left Virgo on September 23rd. I think it was last year or the year before that.
Yes, I know all about it.
Yeah, the dragon was there, all of that. So that's the verse in Revelations that we have, letting us know that the cycle is about to begin. Basically, there's a fail-safe in the Matrix that whenever somebody starts hacking it or certain information is released, that this happens to wipe out all the people who have this information, to wipe out the people who could break the construct down, essentially. And there was certain information.
Would you consider yourself one of those people?
Of what?
What you just said, being wiped out because you are standing in the way of their six psychopathic plan.
Yeah, because I accidentally stepped on a butterfly, like I did it. You know what I mean? I did something that caused issues, and I'm not the sole purpose. Like, we all served a purpose that started this. Like, we all did something, whether we know what it is or we don't know what it is. But now we're all in it, and now we're trying to figure out. There was this flood of information we had all of that just come falling down the skies like manna, and now we're all trying to make sense of this information that we have. And there's certain things that I do have that it's pretty in-depth stuff that I can't talk about to just anybody, you know what I mean? But basically, so that's what's going on right now in my view, is it is a cycle, but it's also very real, you know? But I don't know what you guys believe about either. That's another question. Now I'm just asking a bunch of questions. What do you guys
That's fine.
What do you guys believe about this? Like, do you believe that this is the sleeping state, or do you think you're awake?
I think people are waking up, really.
I think people are waking up.
Yeah.
No, when I say sleep or
If you
awake,
believe in the stars and things, and if we're now in the age of Aquarius as of the past, decade or so, it's very obvious that a lot of people have been waking up in the past 10 years. And that would make sense with that age. Aquarius is going to pour out knowledge and wisdom. It's the age of information. We're definitely receiving a lot of information.
it's the inflow. When I said, do you think you're asleep or awake, I guess I was more or less asking, do you believe you're alive or do you believe you're dead? Like, do you believe that this matrix is like physical, or do you believe that you know there's another you somewhere?
I really don't see any
if
concrete.
I get hurt, I get hurt. I feel it physically. I hear this some. Like, I mean, I'm here. We're here now. Whatever we got to do while we're here now is what we got to do. What we decide, but we have choices. I think we have free will. I don't think it's all predetermined and, just nothing you do matters. It's like, okay, well then what's the point? Just unalive yourself. Like
You wouldn't make a good Calvinist.
I think that Jesus thought of the dead as being spiritually dead, because he said, in the end, I tell you, those that hear the voice of the Son of God will live, And I think he was thinking in terms of spiritual death, like not.
I have to agree with that too.
Yeah.
I think the same thing.
That fits. I agree.
I was going to show y'all this, since I think that the Old Testament is an algorithm, and in Isaiah he gives a clue about it, because he said he's telling the end from the beginning of things not yet done. So what he's actually demonstrating in the Old Testament is what was going to come to pass after Jesus was gone. Okay, well, you have a time period with Solomon being David's son, would be the precursor for, or the, like, would be the Jesus person, like the Christ person. And it says in 1 Kings, it says that it'll come to pass, the way to scale a meter, the golden, which comes to Solomon, the division of the year, once the 666, and they have talents of gold. But when you look at it in Hebrew, that word for kilkar for bread for gold is actually can be bread. It's a round, and it can be a district, a round loaf of bread, or a round weight, or a talent of gold, and they have it as a talent of gold in English. But when you actually look at what he's saying, it's like, it'll come to pass a weigh scale, the golden, which comes to Solomon's division, or the Christ person's division, if you want to look at it that way, 666, a round loaf of bread of splendor. Well, exactly 666 years ago, the Catholic Church set up the round loaf of splendor in the golden round, called the sacrament of the Eucharist, where they venerate the what they consider to be the body of Christ. And so we're sitting right at his 666 division of time, at the very end of it. If you see what I mean. I mean, it's a complicated thing to look at, but I just found it real interesting that it plays out to this year.
I need to break that down a little bit more, but yeah, this year is very significant.
Because there's very few things that give a timetable that concrete, you know. It's like,
I'll have to send you this video because I know you'll really be able to dissect it better than I can. But it's the timeline in regards to 70 AD and how we're actually right on track. We're not off at all in timing for this to be happening. But then again, you know, there's people who say that they changed the calendars and all that. There's just always going to be an alternative view. So I always go back to relationship because I get burnt out, you know?
oh yeah, there's just too
Right.
much. There's too much to
Yeah.
take in. It's like, it's way too much.
Phantom, I have a question for you. Do you know of anything else that you have heard of that's happening in the stars, like within the past since this last eclipse?
The eclipse, no. But
Okay.
I haven't been looking, to be honest with you. Ever since the eclipse, I stopped because that was when it was like, okay, if there's going to be a shift, it would be now. And there was, but it wasn't permanent. It was like, okay, here's people's times to repent, to do right, and things were okay for a little bit, but then I think people just slid back into the same stuff. So we're just like back where we started. That's my view. And then we have when the next eclipse is.
You read my mind. Yes. That was my question. I should know that. Actually, I thought it was 2027.
That sounds about right, because that would be lined up when all that chaos is supposed to go down. It's around there.
Hey Taylor, sorry, she asked to come up.
No, it's okay.
What did you want to say?
No, I'm just hearing this while I'm eating dinner with my family. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is amazing.
Are they all around right now listening to you?
No, I have my headphones in, and I'm now in the closet. So.
Don't listen
She's
to her.
crazy. She's crazy.
Yeah, she's crazy. Yeah, I don't feel crazy with you guys, so it's amazing.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
I was just gonna say one thing about the star thing. I follow this guy on YouTube. His name is Jeremy, the prodigal son. And he has this interesting thing that he's kind of talking about recently about the September 23rd, 2017, the Revelation 12 sign kind of thing, like the woman with the sun at her feet kind of thing. So that was 7 years ago from this year. And his kind of theory is that it happened. There's a scripture that talks about it happens in the heavens before it happens in the earth or something like that. I don't remember what scripture he's referring to, but basically it kind of refers to this occultic symbology of the So anyway, the 7-7, which is or the L7. It's kind of like the truth, and then the inversion of truth, or as above, so below kind of thing. And so his theory is that kind of like the first 7 years of tribulation kind of thing, like it already happened essentially kind of like in the stars, but then it's actually going to manifest into the physical realm at this time. Does that make sense? So like the first 7 is it's going to be 7 years this month, and then the actual, his interpretation is the tribulation thing is going to be starting this year. I don't know. I just thought that was super interesting because he pulled up he was talking about the eclipse and how many days it is to the fall equinox, and it was all these like crazy numbers, and it all made sense to me. I don't know if it's going to happen, right? I'm not a date setter. I'm just saying.
His timing sounds. Yeah, it really is, because when you think about the
Sally.
timing of it, Night Sally. When you think about the timing of it, and I don't know about all this 7-year tribulation stuff. I'm sure artists can elaborate on that more than I could. But supposedly there's 3.5 years of good where his scam is actually working, and then 3.5 years where the cucka hits the fan. I think that's the scenario. Well, that's what I was taught in Sunday school, anyhow, by the
Right. Yeah, I thought
whoever.
about that too.
But when you think about the timing, 2024, 3.5 years, 2027, we're coming to that other eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the star thing is the occult has just demonized it to the point when you pick up a book and try to read something about what's going on in the heavens, up the stars and the movement in the firmament, well, you're the devil.
Right.
And so my son turned me on to this really cool book, and I bought it. And it talks about the stars you were born under and the time you were born on, and how it affects your personality and who
Right.
you are. And I said, oh my, there's a little bit of truth to this. And the further I dug and the more I understand it, I cannot begin to say that.
I wasn't
just
trying. Hold on.
understanding
Let me preface.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
you're about to
I
get
don't
into
want-
something here. I
All
was showing him these things, and I was letting him. I told him to buy the book, and I told him to look into this because I'm trying to get him to understand the construct system in which we
Yeah.
live in a little bit better. So,
Right.
like, I do not worship these things. I do not think that they're
No.
going to give me any sort of enlightenment or truth or anything that what we're talking about here. We're going a little off topic with it, but sorry. I want to say that because, like, I do believe in Jesus Barabbas. This is my ultimate priority, but I study a lot of other things as well because I want to have conversations with people. But okay, I'll let you continue. I just want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I totally agree. And I think like most people who've actually looked deep into astrology, I'm someone who, I was in the New Age for a while, and I like know my sun and my moon and like all the crap, right? And it's crazy because so me and my partner, we play this game where we go and we meet people and we can like read their sign just based off of like these qualities that we've learned. And I think there is a truth to it. And again, I don't worship any of that either, but I think it is part of the construct. I think that we came down, right, through essentially.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
Because
Well, he told us to be wise as serpents, but gentle as doves.
Right, exactly.
You
You can
know.
know their plans, but
Right.
you don't want to worship them.
Can I say something though, real quick about this astrology thing? Because for me, I see a lot of truth about the place we live in and the construct, and it's like for me and my dad, right? Like I've known him my whole life. Obviously, we've had a lot of differences. We've had a lot of disagreements. We've had a lot of things where we don't understand each other. We don't see eye to eye, or it's just
Especially when you got into that Hebrew roots chunk.
yeah. I know. Hold on.
I was there too.
That was a mistake. That was a mistake.
We're listening. We're listening.
But so when I started to look up, and I think a lot of people, astrology has lost knowledge as well, because it's like there's the Eastern and the Western, and there's your year sign, there's your month sign, there's all these things. And for me personally, I will say this, and I'm not trying to get too off topic, so please forgive me going on. I just want to say this little thing because it's a personal relationship with me and my dad that this personally helped me. And it also helped us with this whole thing we're talking about with Jesus Barabbas and whatnot, because I'm going to lead it back to that here in just a second. So it says for my year sign with my dad's year sign that we should almost even avoid each other because we're never going to see eye to eye, and it's just going to be a very difficult relationship, because I'm the year of the snake and he's the year of the pig, and they don't see life the same way, and it's very true, we don't. But the
Just
thing
remember,
is
Nathan, pigs eat snakes. Snakes don't eat pigs.
well, yeah.
Go ahead,
Okay.
son.
So, but what I'm saying though is that you can have all this knowledge, you can understand all these things about zodiac and and maybe it has influence on you, whoever. But when you get this knowledge of Jesus Barabbas and you really see all these things, you're trying to align yourself with the Father
Yes.
over top of this Yahweh prison system
Yes.
characteristics. So there may be things that are instilled in us to be a certain way. And I think that's where people get lost, because they get into this whole zodiac thing and then they say, oh, well, I'm just this way. Oh, and then they start to worship the zodiac. And say, oh, well, it's just how I am, and oh, it's just this and that. But see, as the snake, it's like I it's just so many things about me where I'm not going to agree with certain things, and I'm going to be this way and that way or whatever. And it's like, well, I don't really align with any of those things now, but I did at one point in time when I had no previous knowledge and I didn't know how to live my life. So. Yeah, there's a lot of negative connotations that come along with that whole zodiac, because there's a lot of demonic oppression upon everybody in totally different ways.
Sure is.
Whereas like the
control system.
It's like the pig.
Yes.
The pig don't really want to. Well, and it's really rare actually for the year of the pig. It says to be in depth as a person and want to understand things more in depth. And they want to go through life the easy mode and just float through or whatever. And he does do that to some aspect, but he's not a shallow depth person like a wafer cracker. He's got a lot of depth to him. He wants to know about these things. He is pursuing these things. This is where we have to break free of that. So you can identify some things and say, okay, all right, I am born in this time. And I'm so sorry I'm jumping off on the whole astrology thing, but this is important for anybody that's listening that's into this, because I know there's a lot of people that are. And if you do, here's what I said to going on too. If you start to align yourself with every single characteristic of what it says about you, that's not good. That means that you're aligning yourself in this Yahweh prison system and you're not living correctly. Because we're all supposed to be a certain way that Jesus said to align us with the Father. And that's the goal and priority that we're trying to achieve and get to. So I get that, I may have problems with, it says things like, I have problems with lust. I have problems with lying. I have problems with this or that. And it's like, okay, if I know that, though, and I studied that, now it's easier for me to combat those things and say, oh, yeah, actually, I do have those things. Because a lot of people don't. I know that like the year of the tiger, the year of the dog, and the year of the snake have really bad problems with promiscuity and things like this or whatever. So if you know that about yourself and you know that that's something that you're going to face, the teachings of Jesus can pull you right out of all of that and say, come out of that Yahweh system. Don't subscribe yourself to these things. These aren't things that make you who you are. Be of Father, be of this new light, be of this whole thing that he's talking about, and live your life this way and speak to people this way. Don't be delving into this so deep that it's just your whole life and your religion and everything you're going to believe in and say, oh, well, because I know so many friends, I have a lot of friends that believe in astrology, and this is why I talk about this, because they live their whole lives by this stuff. And I'm like, oh, you're missing the whole point. Like, you're just going to get stuck in, okay, yeah, this is the prison system I'm in, and this is how I'm going to live now because that's just how I am. Like, that's a cop-out. You're not going to try to do anything. You're not going to try to step out of what that is. Anyways, I'm sorry. I talked a lot there. I really wanted to say what I was saying because it's okay. I just know a lot of people look into that. I didn't want to overtake it, but
I hear what you're saying. Our identity should be in Christ, but I do think it's important to know what you're looking at, and I think that's a lot of what the church falls into sometimes is they don't look outside. They just rigid, great look.
Right, and so that's why I brought it up, because Christians will immediately say it's the devil, it's awful, and if you do that, we automatically ostracize you, and you're an awful person, and whatever. But I don't think so. I think it's okay to try to study and understand yourself and see maybe what can be about yourself. But
when it's aligned with Father's plan and truth, other than that, boy, I gotta say something here. How many fathers get to hear their son speak what the child just spoke? I'm sitting here crying.
That's pretty awesome.
Literally.
It is awesome.
It's beautiful. How many
it's
fathers
coming
get
from
to
a
hear
different
this?
perspective. if there's people that are coming
That's
from that
beautiful.
whole astrology thing, I want them to know that it's not because Christians will just say it's all BS, it's all BS, and you're of the
Right.
devil, and it's like, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that it's all BS. I'm just going to say that it's not correct. It's not what we need to be living by. I believe that there's truth in it. There's definitely a deeper knowledge and understanding about the place that we live that has been kept from us.
Well, Nathan,
Sorry,
getting
go ahead.
back to
Well, what were you saying about the book?
Well, forget that book. You're right. But listen, getting back on
Okay,
topic.
good.
Getting back on topic and the end times. Do you believe that it could be somewhat predicted by somebody who watches the stars and knows the movements of the stars and
Well,
even
I mean, all
when
the
Jesus,
occultists, all these devil worshippers. I mean, they love it.
They work with,
But,
they do work
okay,
with
let's
dates.
just-
Yeah.
yeah, well, let me rephrase it then. Fine. Do you think the devil, Yahweh's children and his minions are able to tell when Jesus Bar Abba is going to come and take us? Do you think
Oh,
they're
I'm
able
sure,
to see
I'm
that
sure.
in the
Probably they
stars?
probably know we're
Yeah.
close because I know one of the guys
There.
that's been raising a big stir on YouTube is that Amon Hillman, and he let it slip
Yeah.
because I've been watching trying to because people were asking me if he was right on the Greek or not, and I watched him kind of critique some of the Greek for him, and he's actually doing videos where he says "bringing on the apocalypse" is what he titles it.
The days or the hours.
That's
And
right.
If we sit and
I
try
agree.
to figure it out, well, that's the great falling away, man. You know what I mean? I saw this
Yeah.
guy who literally every week he had 600 people in his live every time, and he was preaching the same thing.
I
Rapture
know.
today.
I know. I see those too, and I'm just like, these people are nuts,
So
man.
crazy. Like, what the
Yeah,
heck?
no.
He gets 600
But he was
people
telling-
alive.
Amon was
It's-
telling the other Satanists not to be afraid that the apocalypse was coming, but for them not to be afraid.
The apocalypse.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and that tells you everything
Sure they
right
do.
there.
But it's all of this is secondary to the truth that, there were two Jesuses, one an imposter and one real. And, choose you today who you will serve. I mean, if you're really asking for him to show you the truth, you're going to see this. And it's going to be life-changing. And all this other little stuff we're talking about is all going to be secondary.
Well, I
to
think
it.
one reason that Jesus told us that we wouldn't know the day or the hour, nobody did except for Father in heaven, is because this is not his world. Jesus said this was not his world. So these calendars and these things of this world, these constructs, the astrology, all that, they don't apply to him at all. It's like you see all these people trying to fit it into
right.
the feast and all this stuff. It doesn't apply at all because this
he
is
didn't
not.
have a sign. He didn't have anything like that. It's
He
they
said a
wanna try to
wicked
do that.
that they would seek a sign and none would be given to them because
That's right.
and
Oh,
that just
boy.
popped in my head for some reason. So I just thought I'd share.
Let me go have some humble pie with my ice cream tonight. That's
go read that
That's
book.
powerful. That's awesome. Go burn
Look at the
that
stars or
book.
something.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was great. It was
Wow.
great. Thank you.
I do have a quick question actually talking about this. I mean, I'm sorry, this might be, off topic as well, but I heard someone earlier say when Jesus Barabbas takes us, and I think someone was referring to is it Herpasio or something like that, like the what is
Yeah,
it
the
called?
harpazo. Yeah.
Harpazo, yeah. So interesting. I just heard this theory from someone recently who dives into occultic stuff. I think it actually is. I think his YouTube is something like Occult Science 101 or something. Anyway, so through his research, this is just, I don't know, I don't believe this. I'm just throwing this out there, that the rapture is actually not like something we want to participate in. It's actually more of like the gathering of like his followers or his people, or like maybe the people who chose to take the mark or something like that. So I just, yeah, the rapture, that's an interesting thing, or the harpazo.
Well, really, Darby
curious.
started to push that a lot. That was when the whole rapture thing really started to come about. And that was many, many, many years after all these things were written down. And that's just what I think. I look at Darby and, but go ahead, go ahead, Artist.
Jesus said that nobody could snatch them out of his hand, and that word for snatch is harpazo. And then it's like when Paul mentions it, he mentions everybody being caught up to the Lord, which would be Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, so that's another thing to think about. I haven't come to any concrete conclusions, because we do have Jesus saying that in his Father's house there's many mansions, and that he goes to prepare a place for us, and he will, come back and receive us to himself, so that where he is, we can be there also. So, there could be two different type scenario things happening too,
Yeah, it's interesting things.
Yes.
Could that be?
I'm in line with that.
But could that be that he'll be there
Darby
for us
wasn't even
when
around to the 1800s. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, like, he said he'd come back and get us, but could that be at the door? He's the door, Could that be that he's waiting at the door, the door of the portal, when we die from this world, because we're all appointed to die once?
Yeah.
Is he waiting for us at the door as soon as? Because Galanov, you know that when we die, the whole story of us going in the earth and all this stuff and staying there isn't true, because Jesus said that we will be with him as soon as we pass through.
Yeah, he said we pass directly from death to life. Like
Exactly.
it just is instant.
Right. So is he at the door? Is that where he comes and gets us?
I think so, because a lot of times when I was working trauma, people would see Jesus the minute they were going out, and they'd say, "Oh, I see Jesus," and you knew when they said that they were probably going. It's like,
Wow.
Yeah, when you hear those words and then somebody just goes out, they knew him and he was there waiting for them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
This is Corinthians, though, the verse where it talks about we're all sleeping. And if you don't believe in Paul, then you kind of have to throw out Corinthians.
Well, that's okay. I mean, let's still go through it.
Well, okay, so, he says, I'm going to tell you a secret. Like, I'm going to tell you a mystery. And he says,
oh, yeah.
Not all of us are asleep, and not all of us we're just going to be changed. How are the dead raised? With what kind of body will they come? How foolish. How you sow does not come to life unless it dies. So if we're going by Paul, then we have to consider that this might be Sheol. You know what I'm saying?
Right. We think that.
Okay.
We think we're from the below.
You do think that we're sleeping then?
Well,
we're in the underworld according to Jesus, because he said, when he said, "You're from below and I'm from above," I'm not of this world. When he was calling this world Kato, he called it Katokosmos, and Katokosmos means the underworld. So he was telling us that we are in a prison, we're in the underworld.
So if you think about it, death isn't death, right? So we're
passing
saying
to the next life.
We're waking up. We're dead now. You know what I'm saying? If we're going by this, we're not alive right now. We're dead. We're spiritually dead. And when God comes and takes us, then we're alive in Christ. You get what I mean?
That is interesting. I thought about that, because there's that scripture, and this is just what I thought about off the top of my head. It's there. I don't even know what book it's in, but it's in one of the Gospels, and it says, Jesus says, "Let the dead bury the dead." And I've thought about that before. I'm like, is he referring to kind of mankind as being dead, or like what kind of what you're talking about? I kind of think so. I think in a sense we're yeah, we're not alive in, I mean, I don't want to say Christ for me, but like, we're not alive in Jesus, or we're not, yeah, I kind of have that idea as well, that we're not actually alive.
Yeah.
We're told that from birth, right? But yeah, anyway, I agree with you.
I agree with you too. I think the thing is that we're afraid to die, but it also says, this isn't, don't go unalive yourselves, anyone. It's important to be here, and what you do here matters. But
I think so. I think so.
No, it
Yeah.
absolutely matters, because you're in the maze, in the matrix, right? You have to find your way out. The only way to find your way out is to go through the process. If you cheat, you got to go do it all over again. You know what I mean?
It's not, yeah, but it's beyond just finding yourself, because for me, I can find myself, I can figure some things out, but there's people that I care about. That's why my dad is here. He didn't want to listen to what I was saying. He didn't understand at the beginning. And then after, a lot of time of talking, things started to unfold for him. And I've tried to work with my mom. She ain't having it. But, it just, some people are just at a different spot and where they're at. And I still think that we're supposed to try to help people and talk to people, because I have friends around me and they don't really get what I'm saying. They think what I'm saying is just so alien to them. They're just like, this guy's nuts. But then as time goes on, they say, hey, well, you said this. Hey, well, you said that. Oh, what about this about the nature in which we live in? And, because if there's any little thing, this is why I study a lot of things and what I was talking about earlier, because I have a lot of friends that are just so lost in the world, and I feel so bad for them. And I know they're not just going to listen to me outright. If I just start hammering down this research that we're talking about in here, they ain't going to listen. It's too much for them. And so I have to deal with everybody where they're at in my life. And yes, so maybe I understand all these things we're talking about in here, but a lot of people cannot talk about this so in depth, because they don't even know what we're even saying. And I have to deal with everyday people every single day. And those people matter to me. I grew up with them. I work with them. I make money with them, or I have dealings with them, and I care about them. They're my friends. And it's like I have a friend, right? He's a professional stunt bike rider. He's a pretty famous guy in like the motorcycle community. A lot of people like him, and he's got a big following. But I talk to him when we hang out in a little junkyard lot that we rent together, and he will ask me things, and he'll say, "Hey, well, like, what about this about Jesus?" And he was like, "What? So there's two Jesuses now?" And so he kind of like was like, this just sounds so ridiculous, and then just immediately wants to throw it out, So I get that there's people that are like that. So I just come back, and when I'm around him or when he calls me on the phone, I have learned now that the best thing to do is to act and live in this character which Jesus Bar was telling us to live in. So people are going to see the example, and that love that you're learning from Father, and it takes a while to learn it because I was in Hebrew roots and I just hated everything. So it's like, that ain't how you're supposed to be. But for him, he's a little bit slower of a learner. He's not going to get all these things right. And then there was another guy he brought in, from another town. He's a stunt bike rider too. He's big on Instagram. I don't know. They care about all this stuff, and I don't care about none of that. But I still have to come in contact. These are people that are coming into my everyday life, and it's a person that I can speak with and talk with. And we sit down and we have little fires at the lot. And then I say, well, I think this and I think that. And then they're like, oh, okay. But they want to reject pretty quickly. They're like, I don't know, man. You're just full of shit and whatever. And I'm sorry for swearing. But it's like, but that's what they're saying. And that could be hurtful to somebody that spent so much time and research, and you're like, oh, I've spent so much time, you don't understand it. But they're not going to hear that part of it. They're not going to hear like, oh, I spent so much time or whatever. They're still so wrapped up in the world and the Twitter sphere and all these things going on that it's not relevant to them.
Yeah, it's fear. It's fear.
But so what I was going to say is, because I was trying to just say a little story, because it's like it is relevant, because eventually, after years, and I've still just given that love that I know that Father wants me to give to people, and say, hey, just love everybody. Give them that love that you know that you learned from me, and let them sit on it and let them come back, and eventually they've said, oh, like I just love the nature that you have when we're around you. I love how you just try to always love us. You're always so caring. You're always so you're even intimate in the conversations that we have. And that is like in the past 3 years, because when I first started with them, like I was saying earlier, they were like, oh no, hell no, I'm not going to believe none of this. You're on some BS. And then now it's like the character and the way that I'm acting and the way that I want to be, and learning from Father and learning from this Jesus teaching has helped me so much with those people, because it's like they're seeing the actions, they're seeing the fruits that he was talking about.
Right.
And I'm not glorifying myself here, by the way. I'm not saying, oh, I got it, this is me. But they get it, and they're starting to see it, and they're like, oh, this is how we're supposed to act. Oh, this is how we're supposed to treat people. And then so they don't even get anything about what we're talking about in here, but they're like, nah, we're supposed to act this way. And they kind of, they laugh with me a little bit. They're like, no, Nate says we're supposed to act this way. Oh, Nate says this, but they get it, and they get it, and they act it. And so it's like, okay, it can be transferred to people of any level of understanding. That's all I was trying to say. I'm sorry, I just probably talked for like 10 minutes. I'm so sorry.
No, that's good. I'm probably gonna have to call it, guys, because I'm getting tired. But
yeah, I am myself.
I do have a quick question. I know that we're kind of off topic, but I think there are some people in the group that kind of like are talking about this stuff. Is there any way that maybe we can do like another live or a Zoom call that we can just talk about all these other topics also?
We can add you to the Discord group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have discussions in there live.
Okay, that's cool.
Well, we just have like voice calls. And would you like to be added to it?
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're going to continue to do these, and there'll be a lot of more opportunities to ask questions and talk about things, and we can have a night when we just talk, whatever.
Yeah. This would honestly, how this is going now is more about how the Discord chats go. And I'm so sorry if I took over the live going on.
Oh no, you did great. I was enjoying it. No, I was enjoying it.
It's such a blessing that we can all come together and we're actually just committed to finding the truth, and like
right. That's why we're here.
We can all disagree.
That's the bottom line.
I have plenty of people disagreeing. That was my point. I have so many people lost in all these different things that they're watching because they got them phones in their faces. And so I try to just reach anyone where they're at any level. But I know what the truth is, and this is what it is. And here in this live is what I want to talk about. And I'm so sorry. I went off topic tonight, and I apologize.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. We're going to go off topic. I mean, that's just a given. That's us. And if it's something we need to discuss, then it's okay. I'm not like a schoolmaster or something here. It's like
I was just saying, like, because everybody that's even in these lives, I mean, I'm sure they have these people in their lives. Those are the people that need you the most. They need to hear these things, but you have to approach it in a way that they can understand. And the way that they're going to understand is from your actions and how you treat them and how you live your life. They're going to be watching that. If you're living like a POS and you're just like, whatever, and nothing matters, they're not really going to take your words that serious. If you're treating them right and you're listening to them and you're saying the truthful words, they're going to listen. because truth just pierces through everything. And I really think that Jesus Bar Abba had those truths, and that's what I align myself with. And all the things I want to try to tell people eventually is like, that's what it's leading into. But I'll meet them wherever they're at. That's all I was saying. And I'll shut up now. I'm done. I talked a lot.
You did great.
Hey, before we shut it down, I've been having some technical difficulties with my signal. If y'all knew where I lived, you would understand. How did I sound tonight? Was I loud and clear?
Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
Good, and you had no
Very
signal
good.
differences. Yeah, it was great.
Great. I had to do some fine tuning today, but I think I got it dialed in. Awesome.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah, I think it was good.
Well, I'm going to call it for tonight, guys. I really enjoyed
Great.
it. All the
Awesome.
conversations were awesome. I appreciate
Yes.
everybody that came, all the likes. Everything was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Golanon.
Yeah. I
He
love
is
you guys.
out in the boonies.
Love y'all.
Y'all have a good
Sweet
evening.
dreams.
Yeah,
You too.
Bye-bye.